So I want to work under him or her. So that is not at all professional approach, right? Because mostly it happens that most of our students join this program, PhD program, soon after MA. So mostly it happens, I mean, I'm talking from our experience, right? Mostly it happens that they know the teachers, and if they join the same university, they know the teachers, and if they join some other universities, say for example, if they complete their masters from JNU and join PhD program in Mumbai or somewhere else, they find out from people like who is the teacher, like okay, the teacher is good, very my dear, like beta beta karke baat karta hai type. So you go to him or her, and accordingly you choose your research area or research interest. I urge you, I am telling my dear students, don't do that. Don't do that. First, you should think of your research area. See, this is I am into linguistics, or I am into literature. I mean, I'm talking from Russian perspective, but if you are a student of linguistics, you should decide whether I am interested in typology. If I'm interested in typology, I may go to Hari, Madhab or Pradeep ji or whoever. If I'm interested into generative grammar, I should choose another faculty. I mean, choosing the faculty is a secondary thing. First, you should choose the broader area of research. Then after that, once you have chosen the area, say for example, you have chosen Russian literature, then you consult Sonu sir, because he is a specialist in Russian literature. But again, he also has some specific area of interest. So now if you ask him, sir, guide me, like I want to work on in the field of Russian literature, then you should discuss with him, or maybe with some other teacher, maybe with Ranjana ma'am from Russian Center, who is also a specialist in Russian literature. There you should decide, after having discussed this thing with a teacher, then you should decide your area. For example, you are interested to work on, say, Russian literature, 19th century Russian literature, or 20th century Russian literature. Now, once it is clear to you that I want to work on Russian literature, 19th century Russian literature, or I want to work on, say, 20th century Russian literature, then Sonu sir or Ranjana ma'am or whoever you have discussed the topics may guide you, like, okay, if it is 19th century Russian literature, then you should work with, say, Ranjana ma'am. If it is 20th century Russian literature, then Sonu sir may say, okay, then I can help you. So this is, so what I'm trying to say, that you have to be independent. Unfortunately, my experience is that research scholars are not, I mean, they don't want to be independent. They always need, the support. Guide will guide you, means guide will be your, will suggest you some ways, some techniques, but ultimately you have to do the research. Guide will not write thesis for you. Hari Madhab sir will not write a thesis, or Sonu sir will not write a thesis for you. तब तो उनको PhD होगा, आपको क्या होगा? So that is a very important thing, according to me, that you first you have to decide the broader area, then you consult, you speak to the teacher who is specialist in that field, then you discuss the things with the teacher. He or she will help you, choose your specific area. Then you have to choose the right teacher, like the supervisor, who can help you. So this is the very first, very basic things that you must know. Unfortunately, my experience says that it's not here in India. It's not like that. I know in Russia, it's they are very strict about this, but even in the Western countries. But here it is like, you first choose the teacher, choose your attitude, and like how nice he is or she is towards you. Then accordingly you decide your area. I have seen it. If I'm wrong, I'll be happy, but unfortunately it is the case. But so this is the thing I want to emphasize. Second thing is that after you choose like the specific area, now you want to work, say, on Russian literature, like the on that, no, say something in the field of 20th century Russian literature or something like that, or culture studies, you have already decided that you want to work under, say, Sonu sir. Sonu sir, I think, will not mind if I often use his name as like example, right? It is all hypothetical, but yeah, but purely hypothetical here, but just like that. So if you now choose to work under Sonu sir, you have decided almost the specific these things, like say Russian literature in 21st century, something like that. There, the guide expects from you what he expects. First of all, sincerity. See, not everybody can produce a paper or a thesis like Einstein or like Chomsky. Even you should not try to be like Chomsky. You don't try. Try to be yourself. Like if you are A or B or C, try to be like A or B or C. Even you can make an immense impact on the society, right? So don't think of that, right? So first thing is sincerity. Then you have chosen the supervisor, you are sincere. Now Sonu sir will suggest you, okay, read these books. He may suggest you maybe 2 or 3 books, because see, he is not doing the research. He may give you a very general type of thing, but you have to be specific. So what is expected? You are expected to read maybe this 2 or 3 books, or even maybe articles, and then slowly you have to prepare what? A bibliography, a list of books and articles that, because once you have started reading, say you have read 1 book, 2 books, 3 books, 1 or 2, 3 articles, from there you will also find reference of you will find that some books and articles have been referred in those research work. You note down, you try to find them out, and you will prepare a detailed bibliography. So the books that you have already read and that you are supposed to read in future, and then you should discuss it with your guide. And your guide, say, here I am taking the example of Sonu sir, because he has previous experience of teaching and research. He can suggest you, okay, these books are good, but maybe this particular book or some articles, okay, they may not be very much like related to your research. So that way, in the beginning, you should know, like maybe in the course of work you will be knowing, you'll be reading more books which may not be included in your this thing in bibliography, but at least in the beginning, at least there are some, say, a list of say 20-30 books and articles that might be useful for your research. So this is the very basic thing. And then I think Sonu sir, that I'm not going to discuss. I'm sure Sonu sir has told you like how to prepare this thing like bibliography, and how to even when you are writing an article or your dissertation, how to write this bibliography, like maybe you should follow MLA sheet or something. Yeah, Sonu sir, हम MLA sheets follow करते हैं इधर?
Sir, yes, we follow MLA, but yeah, it depends on the demand.
I am sure yes, you all know about that. I am not going to talk about it. So this is like, I believe this is, and I firmly believe that, and I've been told by many scholars that first you should prepare bibliography. That is the most important thing, because you should know what your, what is your specific area of research. And with that comes what? With that comes 2 things: research questions and methodology. Now, very tricky things. Now it's very difficult to at this stage, like to formulate clear questions and clear methodology, because point is that when you say you have decided, say you want to work on say 20th century Russian literature, Now, again, it's a very vast thing. Though Sonu sir is a specialist in that field, but again, you have to discuss with him, okay, exactly what I want to do. See, and then you have to check, like, already some papers or books have been written on that thing. So, say on 20th century Russian literature. So your work should not, 100%. If it is matching 100% with the previous work, then it is not your research. So you have to be careful. So you have to find out something new, which is which needs research. So you have to be very careful. So that is why the more you read, the more you know, like, okay, these things have been discussed, people have written on that, so I have to find out something new. And even if you talk about, say, comparative studies, say some Russian writer and some Hindi writer or Indian writer, even you may find some work on that, books and articles on that topic. So you have to be very careful. So that is why more you read, more you are towards, so the very important point in research is to illuminate, to elaborate, to illustrate a very small point. You are not supposed to, discuss a lot of things. So there cannot be a research on, say, life and works of Pushkin. This is not a research work. Why I'm saying this? Because I have seen such thing in, well, maybe, I don't know. I don't want to share kahan dekha hai, but I've seen such research, like PhD on life and works of Nirala, life and works of Pushkin. So that cannot be, a topic for research. I'm sorry to say, if somebody says no, it is, I totally disagree with a person. If somebody says like it is also can be a topic of research, because there, first of all, you should illuminate, illustrate a very small point, right? So your research question cannot be, you cannot have, say, 20 research questions in your research. No need. Maybe 3, 4 maximum, right? 5 maybe, I don't know. So that is what I am saying. Even in Russian tradition also, like, if you interact with Russian scholars, they also say, like, you have to be very specific. So it is not macro study, it is micro study. Research is micro study. Elaborate, illustrate in detail, but a small point you have to highlight. So when you read more, your bibliography is ready, then you can note down, these are the questions I want to address. Then comes the methodology, because if you know the specific object, right, the object of study, then you know, or you can think of the method, how to study this object. Now there are several objects, like if you say, let's say, like a tree, if you want to study its say the species and all this, like what they do in botany, then your method will be different. If you want to study the cells there, like cells of, you take out some cells from the trees or something like that, you want to study the skin of that tree, or method may be different, right? If you look at the tree from, like okay, tree for me is a metaphor, then your methodology will be different. You need not tease the branches or leaves of that tree. You can just watch the tree, and because your questions are different, your objects are different, though you can see that, I mean, the main point is tree here, but the objects of that approach to study the tree is different, so your methods will be different. So if you study the tree from botanist's point of view, it is one thing. If you want to study the tree from from literature point of view, it will be different. So that is what you have to keep in mind. So again, I'm coming back to the same point, that you have to be very specific, and you should address, like, it is a micro study, not macro study, according to me. And not only according to me, even according to the Russian scholars in Russian tradition, that is, it should be very to the point, very specific. So I said three things. Bibliography first, you have to prepare first specific area, and then bibliography, research questions, and then I say methodology. So these are the basic things that you have to keep in mind. Apart from the what I have already said, like you should be like a monk. I mean, you should be totally dedicated to your this thing, and please do not choose your guide first and then topic. It should be other way around. Like first you should think of your area, your area of interest, then you should consult a specialist who maybe a specialist according to your knowledge, a specialist in this area. Then you speak to him or her, and then you choose the specific subject, topic, or not topic, the specific area, and then you find out who is the right person to help you in this. But most important, my dear students and friends, like now soon we will be colleagues. Some of you may after a few years may join JNU or some other universities as assistant professor, right? After you complete your PhD, abhi to MA mein hai, but after 4 or 5 years. So try to understand one thing, that if your goal is not clear, right, then you cannot do a research. It's very important. And this 3-4 years, rather I should say first 2 years in research are very important, because that is your, like what I say, you have to formulate your ideas, right? And there you will find many conflicting ideas. That I have noticed in our universities, that students always want to get an answer from the teacher in black and white. Sir, bata dijiye, this is plus or minus, the linear in Russian, right? Yes or no? But you must know that reality is something different. So it is like, can you say, for example, this guy is good and this guy is bad? You cannot say, because maybe that bad guy may have some good qualities and the good guy may have some bad qualities. So it's, in reality, things are not like in black and white. And especially when it comes to subjects like linguistics or Russian, or I mean this humanities, things are more complicated. No, I'm not comparing it with natural sciences, but that I can tell you that human mind is very complicated, that I have already said in the beginning. So accordingly, subjects related to human beings, like linguistics, culture studies, and even other studies like sociology, political science, history, things are very complicated, because human mind is complicated. And all this is like, language reflects human mind, literature reflects human mind, politics reflects human mind, history reflects human mind. So things are very complicated. So don't expect, okay, sir is there, Hari Madhab sir is there, so he will answer my questions in black and white. It is not possible. So you have to be very careful before jumping into a conclusion. So that is why research, it is like, we are always doing research. It's not like once your PhD is over, that means after your PhD is over, that means you have just started your research. Once you have been awarded doctorate, that means you have started your research. Aage to is full of questions and doubts and ideas. And the more doubts you have, the more questions you have in your mind, that means you are a good researcher. If you say, I am not confused, things are very clear to me, that means you should have more questions. If Sonu sir or Hari sir has answered your question, that should lead to some another question. If you, in your mind, like it is a constant machine, like it should work. If you say, okay, clear, now things are 100% clear, I'm sorry, then I think you are not a very good researcher. You should always think of new questions, new ideas. But at the same time, you should keep in mind it should be relevant to your research, not irrelevant. So see, there are so many tricky things. Like on the one hand, I'm saying you should be you should have more questions in your mind. At the same time, I'm saying you should not have irrelevant questions in your mind. Now, then again, another tricky point is that what is relevant, what is irrelevant, that you have to decide. And there, if you are not sure what is relevant, what is irrelevant, there comes the guide as Santa Claus. He helps you, like, okay, so you are, I think you are drifting away, come back to the path. That is the role of the supervisor, the guide. So the entire path you have to walk alone. But when you are drifting away, you will find the guide is standing there. So he's not standing in your path. He is standing rasta ke bahar, ring ke bahar, right? So please keep this in mind, that research is your research. Now, if a few words about our MA term paper students who are doing, they are writing a term paper. It is also Hari Madhab sir may not know that we have this practice in our center, that the students, the 5th year students, have to write term paper. Now they have chosen that topics. All our students from second year, MA second year, have already chosen their topics. This is a, I mean, what I should say is a very basic thing for very basic research, like first step towards research. So here also you should follow these things, like what I've already said, that you have to choose. You have to choose the area. You have already chosen. Sorry, you have already given the topics and the title of the topics, but you have to prepare a bibliography. Few books, articles, then you speak to your respective supervisors, guides, and you have to think of research questions, methodology, and all this. Like it is, like it is a constant, work. Like it's not like aaj kar liya, fir after 1 month I'll do. No, you have to do it regularly. And one last thing that I want to say, that you have to be honest towards your work. And sorry, I thought I should not mention this, but now during last few years, I think my colleagues Hari and Sonu will agree with me. There are a number of cases of plagiarism, like scholars are copying from other sources without acknowledging, and this is rampant now all over the world. It's not limited to India. bahar mein zyada karte hai, I don't know. So try to be honest. If you are definitely, you have to take ideas, you have to borrow ideas from other sources, from books and articles, but please acknowledge that there is no harm. Like if you are learning something from others, you must acknowledge that. Try to be honest. Ethics is the most important thing in anything, especially in research. In any field of life, like in your, say, if you are working somewhere, they'll expect that you must be a right person, the ethical person. It is also very important in research. Like if you are into research, you should not indulge in malpractices. You should not indulge in malpractices. So if you are borrowing some ideas, if you are writing those ideas in your with your own words and expressions, it's okay, but still you should mention that, see, I have borrowed this, these ideas had come to me from this book or articles, whatever. You must mention. But if you are copying those lines, like sentences or whatever the expressions, please acknowledge that. Write it in like somewhere footnotes with mention it somewhere in brackets somewhere. So most important, you should be honest, because frankly speaking, for your your teacher, your guide must be busy with many other things. So mostly it happens that the teacher is busy with his own work, with his own teaching, research. Then he may have some other scholars under him. So it is your duty not to misguide your guide. So do not misguide your guide. Don't say like, sir, ye to my this is my work, and he may not be able to check it, right? So try to cooperate with your guide, because don't forget, આજકાલ તો nowadays it's very clear, like if you are doing some, if you are indulging in malpractices, your thesis will be available online. So I think Sonu sir or Hari will tell us more about this, like it happened and such cases happened. Like you have joined university or college as assistant professor. After few years, they found out like your PhD is plagiarized. Then you will be kicked out, right? I think such things happened, right? I have heard it happened. I said, after a few years of your service, they found out like your this thing is plagiarized. So try to be honest. Even, and don't think that okay, abhi to term paper mein kya plagiarism kar lenge to kya hai. It is not like that, because I am sure your term paper will also be available online after some years. I don't know, Sonu sir will knows these things better than me. See, like if your term papers are available online, say after 2 years or 3 years, when you are say into PhD or you are working somewhere, university may find out, okay, inka jo tha term paper is plagiarized, so you will be penalized, you will be in trouble. So please keep these things in mind. You have to be honest, otherwise you will be in trouble. It is not a warning or a threat. I'm just, it is just an advice. You have to be ethical. So as I said in the beginning, if you are a researcher, you should do research like a monk, very spiritual, very holistic. I think that is all, because I'm sorry I have to leave now. It's almost 2:40, and before that I'd like to say a few words about Dr. Hari Madhab. No, he does not need any introduction, but still, he's a very dear colleague of mine, and we often interact with each other. And he is a specialist in the field of linguistics, and he has been already teaching for how many years? I don't remember. Quite a few years, I think.
More than 12.
Yeah, I know, but I couldn't remember like exactly, but yes. And he has a deep knowledge in the field of techniques, methodology, and how to do research. And I think he will tell you more. I have given a very general lecture, not very specific, but I think you'll enjoy his lecture. He'll explain you all the techniques and methods in how to do research. So thank you, and if you now allow me to leave, then with your permission, Sonu sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for speaking or for giving this wonderful insight. We can say that eye-opening remarks on research methodology, because yes, whatever you said, I agree totally with that. Like from opting for the topic and from opting for the supervisor and all the facts which you have said about plagiarism and all, they are all correct. So thank you very much, sir. As like you informed that you have a meeting, so then we'll not, of course, bother you more. Thank you for joining us. And if there are any questions, maybe if we can just take 5 minutes, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay, if there are any questions, we may ask Arunim sir. Please raise your hand or write in the chat box. Okay, in case like there are no question, then maybe may then.
Okay.
In case there are some questions if specific to, then maybe we can just convey to you later.
Yeah, we can continue our discussion even tomorrow. Hey, I'll be in the center and we can meet and we can discuss online, offline. No problem.
Sir, you have covered most of the relevant things, beginning with choosing the topic and as well as talking about the plagiarism issue, which is very pertinent issue if you look at, and especially UGC nowadays talking about PhD submission. If it is more than 10% copying, you cannot submit.
Yes.
So these are the important things I think students should remember, and also to some extent the circular, the JNU ordinances, and many other things. So somehow, the things what you have discussed within half an hour, I think you have set the tone, in the right direction. So
yeah. I am sure you people will elaborate it, because most of the students are not aware of these facts.
Yeah.
They are very, yeah.
Farooq, you have a question?
Yeah, Zdravstvuyte, sir.
Здравствуйте.
Sir, I have one question that I wanted to ask, whether the research question, is it necessary to write the research question without any interrogative word, or we can write it like what, when, how, this, in this manner?
No, if you are saying question, question is interrogative, I think, right? I mean, sometimes, if it is some rhetorical expressions, even without questioning, I mean, without using interrogative expressions, you can have some rhetorical this thing. But well, I think it is better to, because I have seen that some colleagues, when your this thing goes to CSR, some colleagues comment on this, like if it is called research questions, you should put it in that manner, right? As you said, how, what, when, or whatever, right? So that is, I think, because we are still trying to have a look, how to say, points of convergence, because there are some people, some teachers, who may raise objections. They may say, like, if it is called questions, then you should put it in that manner. Some people may say, nahi, chalega, okay, it's okay, but better to have it in that question form, because you don't forget that when you are submitting your synopsis, it is not that only we are discussing. That means it is not being discussed only in CRS. It will further go to CSR, right? It will be minuted. And even if you are submitting it today in 2021, maybe after 10 years, since it will be minuted, after 10 years, one may find out, like, acha, this is his topic. Okay, maybe that guy is interested. We'll find it out. So, then they will raise many, even after 10 years, people may raise objections like, kya question hai? Kya aapne likha? So keep it in mind that it is a document anybody can access.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
That is why there should not be any ambiguity. That is one very important part of research, is no ambiguity. Zero ambiguity, right? Sonu sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I think that will agree. Zero ambiguity, or less ambiguity rather, let's say. So I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Sonu sir, for inviting me, and I hope we'll be
continue.
We'll be interacting. We'll continue our interaction.
Yes,
there is
yes.
no harm in
Okay, sir. See you soon, sir.
Okay, see you soon. Yes, see you.
So, dear colleagues, thank you for joining in this program, in this interaction, and let us have this program a bit interactive. Like whenever you have question, I hope Dr. Ray won't mind. If you have any question, then he may stop in between also and may try to answer or take your queries. So it's good, like as Arunim sir said, that when you are a real scholar, then you have a lot of questions. Only when you're just listening, okay, that might be possible, that question may arise in your mind later on. But if you have questions, that on live, then you can just totally discuss it during that day. Or with this, like, I'll just give you a short introduction of Dr. Ray. Actually, he has a rich experience of teaching for more than 13 years in JNU, in Center of Linguistic Studies, and then he has interests in constructive grammar, morphology, phonology, field linguistics, folklore, literature, and research methodology. And he has good command over this research methodology. This is what we learned recently, and that was the reason, like, we invited him for this interaction. He also had conducted field work, actually, that practical experience he has on different Indo-Aryan languages, namely like Rajbanshi, Kumaoni, Avdi, Shekhawati, and others, like, then and then in 2010, as his part of his mother tongue survey of India, like MTSI project, he conducted the field work on different varieties of Hindi and Haryanvi spoken in Delhi and Haryana respectively. And apart from that, like, he has published various articles on the area, in the area, and he is also awarded with the Young Teacher Award called Nabeen Shikshabid, which was conferred upon by Panchanan Sangh Sitai, Kochibar, West Bengal. This is also very interesting that we have this dynamic young personality with us, and he has published various books on Rajbanshi short stories and children rhymes in Rajbanshi. So with this, this is, although by that is too long, but with this, like, I would invite Dr. Ray, and please drop in your questions in chat box or raise your hand. Okay, Dr. Ray, please.
Thank you, Sonu sir. So before I start, I will share my screen, then I will start my lecture. Sure. Okay, so. Sonu sir, is it visible?
Yeah, it's visible, sir.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Sonu Soni and as well as Professor Ranjana Banerjee, so for inviting me for this research methodology, so interaction or understanding research methodology. So the main idea of, somehow, as Sanuji has already mentioned, that I think last week we had one RSA meeting, and as a result, we started discussing that these are the things we need to know. Then Sonu sir requested that, sir, why don't you give a lecture to our students? And I said, why not? So maybe I can interact with some of your students, MPhil, PhD students, and as well as some MA students, you see. So that was the idea. And for me, like Sonuji is, good enough, give me that kind of gentle, polite introduction. Thank you, Sonuji. And so I have been associated with research methodology, let's say, for more than 10 to 12 years. And mostly, let's say, and some students are also working with me. Recently, some students also, they submitted their PhD as well as MPhil. I think 2 or 3 of my students, they have also joined, those, I think, submitting their PhD. I think Reti Sarkar and Sonali Mahanta, they have joined, and so they're on the verge of submission. So, so this lecture mainly not for a specialized, let's say, the people who are working on their PhD thesis, but mainly it's a very general level lecture, basics and fundamentals of research methodology. Please keep that thing in mind. And that's what Dr. Arunim Bandyopadhyay has already mentioned, some of the things, that you need to be focused, you need to be passionate, you need to be devoted, you have to be work like a monk, you have to have a holistic approach, you need to choose a topic, not your teacher. Some of the things, you have to be independent. PhD work or whatever, your MPhil work is your baby, you have to care for it, you have to nurture it as if like you are planting a plant and, watering it every day, something like that, you see. And you have to be sincere enough. You have to passion for your work, you see. And he also mentioned about bibliography, research questions, what kind of research questions. And one thing was life and works of Pushkin. So why life and works and Pushkin's is not possible, let's say, because it is too huge. Pushkin has written many things, let's say, especially in the field of literature, as you know that. So you have to narrow down your topic. That's what Arunim sir was saying that you have to narrow down. It is because too large, because the time which is given to you, let's say 4 years for PhD, or maybe maximum 5 years if you get 9B, or 6 years, let's say. So can you imagine within 4 years, can you do this whole things, life and works and Pushkin? And that's what the point, micro study. It's not macro study, it's a micro study. Yes, in future, if you're working on a different project, let's say, it's a huge project, compilations of life and works of Pushkin's, then it's fine, not a problem. But for your MPhil and PhD topic, or maybe for your term paper topic, it is too huge to work on, you see. So, and talking about doubts and confusions, yes, in the initial stage, you should have lots of doubts, lots of confusions, lots of conflicting ideas. If you do not have doubts and conflicting ideas, so you cannot have your own ideas, you see. So initial stage, you have to have that kind of things, and slowly and gradually you read more, then, it is clear that what is to be done and what is not to be done. It is also clear to you. And honesty is one of the very important things. And he also talked about plagiarism issue, as you know that. And I also mentioned about, especially for MPhil and PhD submission, UGC 2016 guidelines. Earlier it was 25%, and JNU has also installed this Turnitin account. As you know that if it is matching 10%, more than 10%, that means you cannot submit your PhD thesis. So those are the rules you need to know. So how to avoid plagiarism? There are ways. Let's say citation is there, footnotes are there. So we talk to students how to avoid plagiarism, you see. And there are international laws against plagiarism. Maybe one job can be, maybe the person can be sent to jail as well. His job, maybe it is also, he can be terminated. All that kind of things and rules, you see. So so these are the things, basic things Arunim sir has talked about. So today, what I will talk about, again, some of the basic things, let's say, as I have been associated with this course, research methodology. I have taught this course in the Center for Linguistics for many years. And since our group here today, it's mixed group, mainly MA students, some MPhil or some PhD students, and maybe some of my colleagues, they have also joined. So it's mainly for, let's say, the young novice scholar. So for them, this lecture, it's not for those hi-fi people, those who already know enough about research methodology. It's only for the basics and fundamentals of research methodology I will be talking about. Now, so what is the overview of my lecture? Since it's the basics and fundamentals of research methodology, so there are only 3 things I'll be talking about. So one thing, transition from student to scholar. So what are the things we do face, let's say, transition from student to scholar? So what is student, who are student and who are scholars, let's say? Though the terms, let's say, student and scholar is the same term, but I think to some extent there is a distinction is also made, mainly for BA student, MA student. But for MPhil, PhD, we often use the term scholar. So what we see, there is a transition is going on from a student to scholar. So if you are a scholar, what are the things are expected from you? You need to understand that, you see. So I'll briefly talk about that part, and then go to research proposal, and then research methods. These 3 things I'll be talking about today. And if you have any questions, any doubt, any queries, just you feel free to contact me, not only during this, whatever the short time we have. I'm accessible. You can email me. My email ID is there. You can just email me, and maybe you can, if you want, you can call me also. That's not a problem, you see. So these things I'll be mainly dealing with today. So as Sonuji told me that, sir, this would be 1.5 hours interaction session. So what I'll do, let's say 1 hour mainly for, I'll talk about this basic things, and then half an hour for interaction, so 1.5 hour total. So if the time is, let's say it's going to be 3 o'clock, so let's say almost 4 o'clock, till 4 o'clock I'll be speaking, and then half an hour or maybe 1 hour. It's totally up to you. If you have interest, I can keep on going, So, so transition from a student to scholar. Now, if you are writing a particular article, or maybe your term paper for that matter, you are definitely a student, but you have to have a scholarly point of view, okay? So, so these points, now let's say research, beginning with research. So what do you mean by research? Research, re means, as you know, this is the negative, this is the prefix, re means do, redo, do it again, research, do it again, re means again, re-examine, redo, review. And so it's not that you are the first one doing it. It has already been done. It's already been done. In your case, you are doing it maybe from a new perspective. Okay, so research, that's what the whole morphology of the word search, research. And let's say synonymous words, search, quest, investigation. These are some of the synonymous words. If you are familiar with Hindi, or let's say Bangla, I myself speak Bangla and Rajbanshi. So let's say Bangla. So Hindi is called Khoj, Annation, Anusandhan. And in Bangla, it is called Gobeshana. So the person who does research is called Gobeshak, Gobeshana, Gobeshak, you see. So scholar, so Gobeshak in Bangla, Gobeshana to Gobeshak. So you are doing some kind of khoj, searching something, investigating something. There is a quest for something, there is an inquiry. So something, so this is what research is all about. And that's what, you are not the first one, because our forefathers, our ancestors, and many people have been doing it. If you talk about the nature itself, our ancestors have been looking at the nature, observing the nature. And we are, let's say, in the 21st century. So there are many things, many knowledge also, let's say, passed down to us by our ancestors, by our forefathers, you see. So something what we are doing, actually we got them from them as well, from our ancestors or something. So it is basically research, doing it again from a different perspective, okay? Now, when I'm talking about transition from a student to scholar, you have to have a different kind of point of view. Different kind of point of view I'm saying is that, let's say, and this is the traditional dictionary definition of scholar. So a person who's studying at university or other place of higher education. So this is the traditional definition. You will find it in a dictionary. And scholar, a person who is highly educated or has an aptitude for study, a specialist in particular branch of study, especially the humanities, or let's say, especially the people who are doing research in the universities, or maybe some research institute or something, they are a scholar. So that's the traditional dictionary kind of definitions, if you want to divide who is student and who is scholar. Now, coming back to the other things, practical issues, being a student and being a scholar, what are the things we had seen in our, childhood days, or in our school days, or maybe in our university days, let's say. So I'm trying to make a kind of distinction, and what are the things we do expect from a scholar and expect from a student. Let's say, mostly in Indian scenario, if you look at, students are spoon-fed by your teachers, let's say. Students are spoon-fed. So you have tutors, lecture notes, classes, assignments, term paper, examinations, lots of class activities. That's what, you're bombarded with many other things, okay? And as a result, there is lots of competitions. You may have many friends, and at the same time, you have foes as well. You may have your enemies. You see, But when you come to MPhil or PhD, what happens? It is only few. Maybe in MA, let's say in MA Russian, I hope at least 30 or 35 students must be there. But when you talk about especially PhD, only few, maybe 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, only less. Okay, so and what is happening that this educational system in India, in other places also, this is the way we are being trained, something like mugging up things, noting down things, right in the examination, trying to make kind of replica what we have understood, or maybe we did not understand, just mugged up thing, because teacher has told us that is the proper way. So that is the way, and there is enough competition for good grades, and that's what we have been doing, and exhaustive and very tiring, because if I'm talking about JNU from 9 to 6, and you have also optional classes, tool classes, and it's too much exhaustive and tiring. It's very tedious thing, being a student you are doing. I'm not saying that scholars, they do not do, but now try to understand this comparison. If you're talking about scholar, on the other hand, mostly scholar are not spoon-fed. You have to have your originality. You have to think individually. This is what, and as a result, when you become a scholar, the individual, that's what Arunim sir was talking about, that formulate ideas. So the ideas do not come, and even some ideas it comes, you do not know, and you have lots of conflicting ideas, because the system which trained us, it is basically spoon fed us, gave us some those ideas. Okay, so scholars are basically not spoon fed. And what to read also, at times you do not know what to read, because your supervisors are also not telling you. But at least in India, supervisors are to some extent good. They tell you what to read. But if you go to Europe and USA or other places, even the supervisors will not tell you what to read. You have to come with your synopsis or your research proposals. They will not tell you this is the bibliography or this is the reference. Okay, so you have to have that kind of independent scholarly kind of view. So what to read, which books, what articles. And at the same time, if you talk about scholar, in PhD you do not have regular classes, and only coursework, let's say, only for one semester. And especially in PhD program, full-time PhD program, you do not have even those coursework, if you're talking about. So no regular classes, so no one telling you what to do, what not to do. And at times it is really confusing being a research scholar. And that's what I always tell, that you should have a very good supervisor who can understand you also, that, what you want to do, let's say. So, and it's very intimidating at times. People feel really frustrated and upset also, that, I do not know, I'm not going anywhere, how to go about it. Nobody is telling me what to do. So at times it's really frustrating. And that's what many people, they also quit up, they quit in the middle, in between also. We had seen many cases, deregistered cases in JNU, and you must be aware that many deregistered students are coming back, so that deregistration rule somehow in JNU, that this year you have to submit, maybe it is now extended. So, and that's what I was talking about, lots of confusion. So self-doubt, what am I doing here? And there are many other things. Let's say you have lots of expectation, job, marriage, family. Let's say there are many things, especially in this age, you are more than 25 or 26. Some people are more than 30 also. So there are lots of things, lots of pressure. And so seek help from other sources of advice. So if you are going in that mode, so seek help from other sources of advice. No shame in quitting also. At times, if you think that it's too burden for you, so no shame in quitting. There are many people without doctorate, without this PhD degree, they have excelled in their life. It's not like that PhD is the ultimate thing. So no shame in quitting. I would say that, yes, not a problem. There are many people, you talk about, let's say, many founders, many people, let's say, not naming any, but there are many people who excelled in their careers without PhD degree also. So no shame in quitting, if you are having lots of issues. And to make mistakes, I will tell you that yes, if you are doing a PhD, mistakes, make mistakes, lots of mistakes, but do not repeat the same mistake. Do not make the same mistakes. Yeah, maybe one mistake, fine. So if you are making one mistake, but do not repeat the same thing again and again, So by making mistakes, we learn in our life, and you have to have patience, read things. If you do not understand, read it once again, discuss that thing with your supervisor or maybe with your colleague, with your peer groups also. And that's what Arunim sir said, that do not expect any ready-made answer that this is yes or this is no. In many cases, there is no ready-made answer. Try to visualize things, try to develop your own perspectives. Okay, so patience. So read things, read once again, discuss things. Okay, and organize your time. And this is really important things. I'll come back to this point. Organize your time, because let's say MPhil in JNU, it is 2 years now. MPhil is like already UGC, there is no MPhil, but PhD mainly 4 years program. So you have to select a topic in such a way that within 4 years, stipulated period of time, you can complete your work, you see. So organize your time in such a way that you can. So time management is really an interesting issue. So think about that, at least every day 2 hours you're working on how many pages, how many articles, how many books. So every day 2 hours at least, let's say how many pages, how many articles, how many books, try to read at least, So it's not about number, but rather how many pages you have read and whether you have understood it or not. That is main important things. Let's say you say that, yeah, I have read today 50 pages, but you did not understand a single line. So there is no point then of reading. You say that I have read 20 articles, but you did not grasp all those articles. So organize your time with other daily activities, research with other works. So don't think something like, yeah, I have 4 years, so 2 years I will somehow not do anything, and then rest 2 years I'll be just confined in my room and I'll work. No, research with other works also. So this time management is really important issue. Be disciplined and systematic. That's what Arunim sir also talked about, discipline and systematic things. So I'm again talking about the same thing. And this procrastination monster, and this is what I think Indians, we Indians have this, this procrastination monster, as if like, oh, I'll do it, and not, yes. As a result, what happens? This is where even today, some of our students, today was the last date of the term paper submission. And in the Google Classroom group, it was 12 o'clock yesterday night. I could see people are submitting in the 11th hour. So why in the 11th hour? Try to submit a little ahead at least. Let's say you are supposed to submit your PhD thesis by June. Why not you end everything by May or before that and submit it to a supervisor, because there are many other issues are involved. And supervisor also check your draft, your chapters. There are many ethical issues. There are many administrative issues. If you do in the 11th hour and somehow blame the supervisor is not giving time, you got 4 years, let's say. So I would say that dispel this procrastination monster and be systematic and be regular, and don't expect that there is kind of miracle is going to take place, that yes, something like this, and maybe someone will come, one angel will come and help me. Don't expect that kind of miracle. Rather, you are the one. You are here to create a miracle for that matter, I would say. You see, that's what showing people or guiding people. You can guide people. It's not like that, supervisor is guiding. You can also guide, maybe not today, after once you complete your PhD, finish your PhD, you will join in a different university or whichever the field you are, you can guide people, you see. You can create own miracle, you see. So engage yourself with other research related works. So something like whether photocopy a book, download book, formatting references, all these times, clean your desk. But stick to your main things, your research thing, okay? And do not spend time with lazy bones and the people who will say, ठीक है यार, बात में करेंगे, अभी चलो चाय पीते हैं, गंगा धारा में चलते हैं, all that kind of thing. So if some people if find that they're lazy bones, so better don't spend time with those lazy bones. I'm not telling you to that kind of groupism things, but your focus is like Arjun, like let's eye of that bird, the main thing, your research questions, your topic. So that should be your focus, and once you are done, then maybe you can have multiple time coffee, tea or snacks, wherever you want, you can go and dance wherever you feel like. See, so do not spend time with the lazy bones. That's what I'm saying. Be serious, regular and serious. You have to be very regular and serious, okay? Feel like a professional, as if like research or MPhil and PhD work or your dissertation, as if like it's a 9 to 5 hour jobs. Try to discuss, make a group or peer group that somehow you can discuss your things and the other person also discuss their things, let's say. Try to attend different seminar, conferences, workshops and colloquium. And not only in India, also try to interact with scholars outside the country, outside your center, not only Center of Russian Studies, at the same time, let's say Linguistic Center in Hyderabad University, Aligarh Muslim University, BHU, or wherever, let's say. So you try to meet, interact with people, if the people they're working the same area. So don't be the frog in the well, let's say. Try to interact with other people. By interacting, we learn a lot. That's what always I prefer this interaction among our colleagues. Let's say if there are certain things I do not know, I don't hesitate to say that, sir, I do not know. Please tell me. So you should not be that kind of mindset. Yes, what I know, that is the best thing, and I am right. Do not be the Mr. Right. The other person, he can be also right, you see. So try to interact with other people, with other community, because different community have different kind of perceptions, different kind of understanding, you see. So that you should be scholarly, okay? And fix an appointment, write an email. I'm talking about especially with your supervisor and other people also. Try to have intellectual conversations, not all that kind of gossip kind of conversations, because if you're interacting with someone, try to have, so I do not need to tell, especially JNU group, that because JNU is full of vibrant ideas, lots of intellectual ideas, or those kind of vibrant ideas come from there, also from the tea shop, Ganga Dhaba and other places. But at least it should not be cheap kind of conversation. You should have intellectual conversation, okay? So if you're a student of the center, to try to teach, let's say if there are some BA courses, optional courses, let's say, or maybe try to help your juniors, or maybe different kind of activity, social activity. So you can do, especially in JNU, and JNU is a very good place for this different kind of activity. Okay, so these are some of the things I wanted to say and share with you before I come back to my main topic. Let's say research proposal. So something like, let's say you have got admission in JNU or whichever the places. So at times there are many things happen. So you may be upset, you may be hesitated, or maybe you are lethargic. The procrastination monster, maybe it's attacked you. But do not underestimate yourself. That's what I will tell you. Undervalue your caliber or potentials. Do not, never. Those negative things should not come to you. Otherwise, unnecessarily, and don't compare yourself with other people, because you should somehow respect yourself. I would say that, So some people who had seen that, especially in MPhil and PhD, after 3 or 4 years, they face different kind of psychological problems. They're into depression and all, So never ever underestimate yourself, okay? Undervalue your caliber, because we all are different, we all are unique. That's what I'm saying. So if this is the situation happens, let's say, you can talk to your friends, your family, your teachers, or your professionals for that matter. And in JNU or whichever the places, if there are certain things happen, share these things, So victimization, ragging, caste discrimination, violence, ethical issues. So you must approach to the university, your center, your chairperson, your teacher. So don't hide it to yourself, you see. So that's what I will say. If some things are happening with you, do not keep it to yourself only, okay? So share with others, maybe you'll find a solution. Not necessarily solution, but at least there is a way, okay? If one way is blocked, there is a saying, thousands ways will be open for you, okay? So it's good also in a way, okay? And check and respect the rules. That's what I was talking about. If you're a student of JNU or Hyderabad University, Aligarh Muslim or BHU, wherever, you check the ordinances, you center notice board, ethical review board. There is an ethical review board as well, you know, and I'll not talk about the ethical issues today because I need at least 2 hours for that, but let's say ethical review board is also there. No regular and part-time job, no, not online and open university. You see, there are certain things, there are certain rules. If you're a regular PhD student, at the same time, you cannot do any job also, you know, even you cannot do simultaneous courses from another university also. There are certain rules you need to know. So that's what I'm saying, check and respect the rules. Fellowship and other things, I'll not talk about, but mainly check and respect the rules, okay? And this is what Arunim, Dr. Arunim was talking about, topic. Choose a topic. Not, you do not need to choose a supervisor, you know, and that's what many students make a mistake. And he is right, Dr. Arunim is right, because in JNU also we had seen that there are some teachers, they're very influential politically, or maybe because of their accent or something. They come from that kind of background. They speak a different kind of English, you know, and as a result, students are kind of influenced or motivated by their look or whatever the elite style they do have. And they do not choose a topic, rather they choose their supervisor. And as a result, what happens after a few days or after a few years, because the topic is given to them and they did not choose the topic, as a result, they will be upset. And this exactly happened. And that is very pertinent point Dr. Arunim was talking about. Choose a topic, not supervisor, you see. So you need to find an area that is researchable. That's what I already mentioned. Have you selected your topic? So let's say not yet. There are 2 possibilities. Topic given by your supervisor, and you have your own ideas and approach, and you approach your supervisor. So there are 2 possibilities that, and mostly in many cases, we had seen that the topics are given by supervisor. So what happens if the topics are given by supervisors and you are not interested? As a result, what happens after 1 or 2 years, and maybe after a few months, you do not find it, you know, interesting. So it's better if you have your own ideas, original ideas, talk to your supervisor, approach, and maybe with supervisor guidance, you can, let's say, flourish there. So as a supervisor, I mainly prefer the second option. Students have their own ideas, and the students who are working with me, more than 8 students working with me, I generally tell them, yes, come with ideas. I'll tell you, I'll guide you. I'll tell you what are the books to read and how to go about. We'll have enough lengthy discussion, but generally I do not want to give any topic to the students. This is the way I look at especially the topic things, you see. So interesting and genuine interest, original contribution in the field, so that especially if you have kind of topic in your mind, so you should be really interested. And you should have genuine interest. It's not for the sake of doing PhD, I'm doing it, you see. And you maybe contribute something in the field. And don't expect that I'm going to create a revolution in the field, or maybe revolution in the Russian literature, or maybe revolution in the linguistics. You don't think that's what Arunim was talking about. Don't think that you are Einstein. Don't think you are Chomsky. Maybe you are better than Chomsky. You never know. And don't think that I'm going to create a revolution in the field. Just I'll tell you, Chomsky in 1957, the book Syntactic Structures, which he published, let's say later on, Chomsky, even with that time also, Chomsky was not famous, you remember? Even Chomsky's articles were refused by the famous magazine, journal Language, you know? So later on, after 1957, Chomsky became famous. So you don't think that something you are going to do, I'm going to create a revolution. No, it's okay. You are doing, many people are doing, you are also doing. So better what you can do in 2 years or 4 years, whichever the time. So let's say in PhD, you get mainly 4 years. So within the time frame, 4 years, what you can do. So be practical. Don't be over ambitious. I had seen the people, some people are over ambitious. As a result, they cannot reach their goal. Okay. So ambition is good, but over ambition is not good. Let's say smartness. I like smartness, but at the same time, over smart, the people who are over smart, you can understand that, maybe faking accent or whatever, the dressing sense and all other stuff, you can get to know who are smart and over smart. So it's the same thing with ambition and over ambition. So be practical. I will tell you, be practical. Work with your supervisor or co-supervisor. If in cases, let's say you have supervisor and co-supervisor. So main, you have to work with your supervisor and co-supervisor. So serious type of students, so mainly punctuality and hardworking. You have to be punctual, do your work regularly. And we had seen, especially in my center also, there are many students that disappear for months. And let's say PhD program is 4 years program. After 3 years, they come and, or let's say 3 or half an years, they come and they want to submit the thesis. And they did not do anything, just copying and pasting from other sources. And what the supervisor will do. And there are many students that do it. At least supervisors, you need to, let's say, give time to your supervisors. You're submitting your chapters. So he will read, and supervisor has many things to do. Try to understand that things. He's teaching, supervising, not only one student, maybe other students. He has family obligations and many other things. Okay. So do not disappear for months. Be in touch, be in contact with your supervisor. And if something is happening, you can simply inform your supervisor, that, yeah, something like, so supervisor has other works, personal and academic life, good professional relationship and work ethics. So try to develop a good professional relationship and work ethics. Discuss matters related to academics. So some people I had seen also that many students unnecessarily criticizing others, all that kind of practices, negative things. Not doing academics, only criticizing. You see, this criticizing does not help, in my understanding. Unnecessarily bitching about colleague, bitching about other students, it doesn't help, okay? So if you're discussing something with your supervisor, better discuss related to academics, and not personal kind of things, plotting against other, conspiracy, all that kind of things. So I do not have, let's say, kind of encourage people to do that. So try to be gentle and good human being. The first important point of a research scholar would be you have to be little gentle and humility and try to be a good human being. Then definitely you are going to be good field worker. Because why I'm saying field worker, because I have this experience of conducting field work in different places in India. So if you are not humble, if you are not, we do not have humility, you cannot go and work in the field, and especially in the villages, because I have been going in different places, conducting field work in different Indian languages. So I know it. So that's what I'm saying, that your arrogance will not work. Maybe your arrogance will work in JNU, that boundary, but outside that boundary, your arrogance will not work, and arrogance should not work at all, at least. Okay. So try to be a good human being. So this is what the general thing I talked about, what Arunim sir was talking about, and also maybe some of my inputs and from my own experience, I wanted to share some of these things. Okay. Now, coming back to the second important point, and this is the most important things, writing a research proposal, or let's say writing a synopsis, or also for, let's say, for article, or maybe for your term paper, because I can see that most of the students today, they join from MA Russian background, and maybe some people. So it is in general, this is the format you need to keep in mind. So writing a research proposal, maybe synopsis, or maybe your term paper also. So briefly, so research proposal, so this is where provide a rationale and motivation for the research study you plan to undertake. So why you are going to do that? Rationale and motivation. you should have your aims and objectives. Aims and objectives, and also we talk about hypothesis, but maybe in some literature and maybe in poems and other places also, when you do kind of stylistic analysis, you may not have hypothesis, but generally it's a good research proposal will have a hypothesis. Definitely will have a hypothesis. So hypothesis is, what is hypothesis basically? That's what last time we were discussing with Dr. Sonu, that hypothesis is basically your intelligent guess based on the initial readings. Let's say based on the initial readings or whatever the materials available, you say that this is something like this. So hypothesis has to be stated in the simple form of statement. So one person was asking, I think Farooq or someone was asking to Arunim, sir, the research questions has to be formulated whether it's a WS question or not. Yes, it should be WS question, but if it is a hypothesis, hypothesis has to be stated in a simple form of statement. So it's very easy. Let's say something like there is a phenomena. I was giving this example to Dr. Sonu last time. Let's say in English, you're talking about the English plural formation process, how plural is formed. So if you have the initial data, let's say you can say that in English, plural is formed by adding s and es. This is your initial observation. So that is basically your hypothesis. Then you start working on that, let's say, English plural formation. Let's say this is a topic, English plural formation. Then you came across to English noun that in English, it's not only about adding s or es. There are many other things are going on because there are in English, the nouns like, let's say, mouse, mice, deer, deer, So there are, in some cases, you do not have any addition, s or es. And in many cases, if you go deeply, that in English, nouns, there is countable nouns, uncountable nouns, mainly you do not add s or es to rice or water, okay? So measurable nouns, so there are other ways to make plural in this case, okay? So you have to reformulate your hypothesis, modify your hypothesis accordingly. So what is hypothesis? Hypothesis is basically an intelligent guess based on your initial findings or based on your initial observation or something, you see. So you can have an hypothesis and cognitively challenging activity. So demands thinking logically through the entire project from beginning to an end. So you have to be logical, So different kind of research proposals. So in this case, let's say we're talking about mainly synopsis or maybe your term paper or article or maybe for MPhil PhD synopsis. But we have seen that different kind of research proposal, grant funding proposal, project proposal, dissertation grant proposal for PhD, postdoc, UGC, DST, ICC, SSR. You will see that kind of. So what I would say that if you're writing a proposals and every institute has their own way, let's say, there is a format. So please get the format. Maybe in your center also, if you're a student of CRS doing your PhD, there is a format available in the center. Collect that format from and even maybe if you're applying for any project or something, get the format from that particular institute, okay? Now, research proposal, if you're talking about research proposal in general, now try to understand that. You are earlier a student, now you are a scholar. So there is an academic community waiting for you, waiting to judge you, whether you are a good scholar or bad scholar, okay? So the author has to gain acceptance into community to demonstrate that the researchers has the capacity to produce disciplinary knowledge. Try to understand this. In order to do so, the proposal writer must have familiarity with the right knowledge, right language. You have to write, right language, knowledge production practices, existing debates, and taken for granted truths of the relevant scholarly community. So these are the things you should know. So if you're working on a particular area, what are the things taken for granted? Let's say if I'm talking about English, especially linguistics. I know in linguistics, the concept like what is C command, it is granted truths. Constituent, the idea like constituent, what is constituent? What is tree diagram? These are granted truths. So C command, that kind of relation, or let's say Grice's principle in pragmatics. What is Grice's principles in pragmatics? If I'm working on philosophy for that matter, what is transdiscursivity proposed by Michael Foucault? I should know what is that, and also some of the things, let's say, talking about Saussure, Ferdinand de Saussure. So the concept of Lang and parole, and Chomsky's concept like intuition, especially talking about e-language and I-language. So there are some granted truths. I should know those granted truths, okay? And so for especially for dissertation and thesis global, this is the website. You can go and get it, the details, and also for research proposal also, you can get the details from this, how to write a very good research proposal. You can get the details from these websites. I think Dr. Sonu Soni, I'll share this PPT with Dr. Sonu Soni, you can get it from him, okay? So the core constituent of a research proposal. Now, what are the things to be there in the research proposal? And look at that, you see. So the aims of the research project. So what is the aim? I talked about aim and objective. Scope of the research project. The significance and originality of the research project in relation to the previous work in the field. So who are the people who worked in that particular topic or related topic, previous work in the field? You need to know the research approach or method to be adopted. What kind of research approach or method will be adopted? So I'll be talking about the research approach or method today in the last part of my presentation. And a provisional chapter plan, especially in synopsis, we talk about tentative plan, tentative chapterization. So, and also provisional timetable for future progresses. And students, some of my students who have joined, I always tell them, you see, this is the time you have to go to the field, from the field, come back, and then again analyze the data. If you need it, once again, you may have to go to the field work. So you have to have a provisional timetable. Within that 3 years or 4 years stipulated time, you have to finish everything. So if you do not conceptualize the time, otherwise you will be lost. So now 4 questions lie at the heart of the research proposal, and these are the 4 questions. What is the question I'm trying to answer? So what is the question I'm trying to answer? Aims of the project and the potential research questions. Why is it worth answering? Why is it worth answering? Why am I answering it? Significance and the originality. Yes, if for the sake of doing PhD, I'm doing it. No, something else. Significance and originality. Maybe you can contribute something in the field and in different aspects, maybe in the politics, in society, in a community, especially talking about linguistics research. Let's see, if I'm writing a grammar of a particular language, I'm contributing because many languages are on the verge of extinction. So by writing a grammar, maybe I'm saving or documenting the language, maybe for future generations, because language itself is something like, it's a carrier of many things. It's a carrier of identity, a carrier of many other things, our understanding, our mental process and all. So something, so why is it worth answering? So what kind of contribution I'm going to make in the society? How have other people tried to answer it? The same question maybe, how the people have answered it. So that is what the existing literature. The same question or the related question, how other people try to answer it. So we have to produce existing literature. So that's what we say, existing literature review. You must have heard about this. How am I going to go about answering it? So what kind of methodology I have, what kind of approaches what I have, and what kind of theoretical understandings. So methodology and theoretical understandings, especially in linguistic research, since it is theory bound, many, and especially many people, they do descriptive analysis. Some people, they will follow different kind of theoretical, let's say, whatever underpinnings of what theory proposed by Chomsky or whatever Halle Marans or whoever the people, Geert Buys and all. So whichever the area you are interested, that's what Arunim was talking about, whether it's a typology, whether it's stylistics. Let's say mainly people are in literature. So stylistics is one of the thing. Let's say you are analyzing a particular poem or short story or novels for that matter. So while analyzing the novel, do you have a particular theory in your mind? Let's say theory proposed by, I'm talking about narratology, or let's say novel for that matter. So how do you look at novels? What are the theories, let's say? Are you following Paul Simpson? Are you following, let's say, Roman Jakobson or Boris Solovsky or someone, especially the Russian formalist, Trubetskoy? Whom are you following? So these are the things, which theoretical approach you're following. That is the things you need to understand as well. Keep that thing in mind. So what is the question I am trying to answer? Research questions are the outcomes of much thinking, writing, and going back and forth to the literature. So, so now just try to understand the research question. That's what Farooq was asking about. So my research question is, researchers who have looked at this subject are, let's say this is the way you can formulate and go ahead a little bit. They argue that, researcher A argues that, researcher B argues that, because A, B, or you can keep on argues that, opines that, says that, said, opined, or so that's what in one of the meetings I was saying that many people, they simply say that in the book written by X, let's say Ruben Murray, in his book something, he talked about this and that. See, that is not the standard way of citation. See, look at this Ruben Murray 2002. I'm talking about Ruben Murray, page number 104, and whichever the book, it is understood. So you do not need to give a detail of, in that book, Ruben Murray has talked about this. These are all unnecessary, redundant information. And especially in academics, we avoid that kind of redundant information. Okay, so that is the standard way of giving citation or referring in the existing literature. Okay, so now debate centers around the issue of, just I'm giving a kind of guideline how to go ahead. There is still work to be done on. Let's see, my research is closest to the researcher A, in that my contribution will be. So these are some of the, let's say, guidelines. I'm just now this is read broadly and widely to find a subject about which you are passionate. This is the point already we have mentioned. You have to be very passionate, genuine interest. So immerse yourself in the literature. You need to read a lot, use your library, read the abstracts, let's say, or other recent theses and dissertation, and narrow your focus to a single question. And that's what research questions we are also talking about in a particular PhD thesis or MPhil thesis. You cannot have many research questions. Otherwise, what will be happen? If you have many research questions, you are diverting, let's say. You are not narrowing down the things, you see. The research is something like only narrowing down. I can talk about linguistic, let's say. Someone is, yeah, I'm going to describe write the grammar of that particular language. No, this is the old way of doing it. No, I want to have a phonological description of the language. Narrow it down. And theoretically try to enrich your things. So one of the things in phonetics and phonology, let's say, we talked about aspiration. Aspiration, as you know, that the little pop on ear, pa and fa, pal and fal, there is a distinction in Hindi, but in English, there is no distinction, pen and pen, let's say. So aspiration in Hindi, then there can be a PhD dissertation on this simple topic. Can you understand that? Aspiration in Hindi, simple topic, because it's totally narrowed down. So then after that, you formulate your research questions accordingly, okay? Because now research has shifted to that area. And what could be the significance of PH, PA, and for distinction things? Maybe you can help, especially if somebody is doing a computational analysis or making or a software, a voice recognition software or something, because that distinction can tell you that, yes, it is a foreigner or he's not a foreigner. You see, pa and fa, for us Indians is easy to pronounce, let's say, pal and fal, or maybe some retroflex sound like ta. Maybe the Europeans have the problem with this retroflex sounds. We had seen that, and many retroflex sounds. Anyway, so you have to, should not have many research questions in your mind, but only few research questions. Be prepared to change or modify your research question if necessary. read up-to-date materials, and also you need to read up-to-date materials, whichever the area you are working on. Okay, and that is what it is interesting thing. And I think our JNU scholars are better because they are somehow they read up-to-date materials. You see, consult other students who are further down the track, especially those who have same advisor as you, or maybe not necessarily, maybe other people also you can contact. Discuss your ideas with your advisor and lots of other people. Discuss your ideas, okay, and condense your research questions into 2 sentences. See, that's what Statfield and Paltridge is saying, that if it's the research questions, condense your research questions into 2 sentences, only 2 sentences. Write them down with pride and post them next to your computer where you can see them daily. See, as if like you're worshipping. Okay, and seeing them everything, then you will get a clue that where to go. And so this is what this is not what I'm saying. Paltridge and Statfield is saying this, write them down, keep it somewhere so that you can see them every day. So why is it, what answering, so how am I a PhD student going to produce this kind of research? So there's novelty and originality should be there. And that's what I told you initially, that you are not going to create a revolution in the field. Okay, it's a PhD, not a Nobel Prize. Okay, so yeah, so be realistic, and this is something what I had seen that in existing literature review, many people, because you are very, very novice, you do not know, many people have already worked on this area, and you say, no one has said before, no one has done it before, I'm the first person going to see this, no work available. This kind of things I had seen, many people they do say. They say this because they do not know. Okay, so that's what, because there are many people working in the different directions, different areas. Okay, so even existing literature can be divided into general as well as the specific. Okay, so maybe not related to very specific one, but you will have lots of existing literature related to general thing. Okay, so this kind of statement that no one has said this before, no one has done it before, so this is to some extent wrong, and so what you can do, Murray 2002, you say something no one has said before, you do empirical work that has not been done before, this is what you can do. You synthesize things that have not been put together before, that's the way you can go ahead. You may make new interpretation of someone else's material or ideas. Interpretation, you see, not imitation, it's interpretation. You do something in this country that's only been done elsewhere. You take an existing technique and apply it to a new area. That's what that can be done also. I'm just telling you some kind of guidelines. You work across disciplines, interdisciplinary works are appreciated using different methodologies. You can do that. And in linguistics, we do that kind of interdisciplinary work, you see. And you look at topics that people in your discipline have not looked at yet. You text existing knowledge in an original way, you see, and you add to knowledge in a way that has not been done before. Okay, and you write down a new piece of information for the first time. So these are some of the ways you can. Now, how is my study contributing, let's say? So there could be 4 possible things. One is theoretically, you can contribute it theoretically, you can contribute it empirically, socially, or politically. And to practice or also policy making things, let's say. So your work can have immense contribution in different fields, let's say. As I am telling you, let's say you have written a grammar of a particular language, let's say. And that particular grammar is being introduced in the school as a textbook, you never know. So, and maybe that particular lesser known language is introduced in the school. So you have a contribution in the policy making, your idea about, let's say, multilingual education, because in India, mostly we have, let's say, monolingual education, and some places multilingual education as well, let's say. But something, your original ideas that can be taken up in future also. Okay, so you can have immense contribution in different fields, in the theoretical field, empirical field, socially, politically, and to practice also, practice in real day-to-day life also. Okay, still think about the people in the 18th century and 19th century or before that, let's say, especially in linguistics, Panini's Ashtadhyayi, the grammar which was written in the 5th century BC, still European linguist, Indian linguist, we quote this thing, Panini's Ashtadhyayi, which is in 5th century BC. Okay, so your work can have a major contribution in different field. Do not expect that your work will have immense contribution immediately within 2 months or 3 months. That is the problem with the new generation. They want all that kind of ready-made solution, all that kind of WhatsApp or whatever, TikTok videos and all. They become familiar and popular one day. It's not like that. You see, I'm talking about 5th century BC or 18th century work. Still, it is relevant today. Okay, so how have others tried to answer it? And that's what existing literature part is. Still, I'm in the existing literature part. I'll take 15 more minutes and then I'll finish, because I told you that I'll be 1 hour and then half an hour discussion and interaction. So literature 1. So let's say this is your topic. Let's say I'm showing that stylistic analysis of Roman Jakobson's theory. Let's say 6 functions of language. So we are going to look at 6 functions of Roman Jakobson's language, or maybe any novels or whatever, short stories or something. So let's say this is your topic, a comparative study of Premchand's story and Pushkin's, let's say, some story, comparative study, Russian or something, trying to do. So literature 1. So you must have read some literature about this. So key authors, who are the key authors? Literature 2, who are the key authors? Literature 3, key authors. So you can list down the key authors, and you can write it in that manner also, who has said this and that. One way you can go ahead. Other way, talking about the existing literature, you can also develop your understanding thematically, not name-wise, but thematically, depending on the same concept or something, you can slowly and gradually go ahead, talking about the existing literature review. So a coherent argument and a conceptual framework you should have. So literature review, try to understand, literature review section is not simply a listing of summary of everything you have read, or attempt to convince the reader that the writer is knowledgeable about the work of others. No, it's not like that. It's not note making, brief notes, chapter, article, and summary. It's not like that, you see. Rather, try to develop a theme and then cite work of relevant authors. So that's what I was saying, that thematically you have to go, okay, and cite work of relevant authors, and try to limit excessive quoting, and try to avoid reporting everything. Be selective. Build an argument, not a library. That's what. Build an argument, not a library. So if you have excessive quote, especially in JNU, our software, Turnitin software will definitely say that this is 50% copying, and you have to come back, less than 10% similarity. So you have to paraphrase things in such a way that it's not a direct copy. You need to interpret things, and that's what. How am I going to go about answering it? So there are different approaches: investigating approach, the methodology, and research design. And so there are different approaches or methods we are talking about. One is quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods. And quantitative methods and qualitative methods, mainly there is also inductive and deductive methods. So because of the paucity of time, I won't discuss it in detail, but let's say qualitative will definitely take a few sections, let's say only few portions, maybe selective things, and then we'll work on thing. And on the other hand, inductive generalization also, depending on whichever the data, on the basis of the data, they will formulate an hypothesis, and deductive will have a different kind of understanding. Deductive, they have already a hypothesis in their mind, and then they'll try to prove those hypotheses, testing those hypotheses, you see. And so mostly in linguistics and also in other fields also, we have inductive generalizations. First we look at the data, and then we try to generalize certain things, formulate our hypothesis. But especially in pure science researches, people have that kind of deductive approaches, and so viable and feasible within the time available. So do something which is viable and feasible within the time available, and advisor who is philosophically compatible with you and who can guide your development. So try to choose an advisor because the person is elite or something. Don't go by that, So maybe some kind of matching you do have with your supervisor who is philosophically compatible with you and who can guide your development, not the person because of his academic stature or something. You like the person or maybe dressing sense, and that's what you like the supervisor. That should not be the case. And so in brief, this is the format of your thesis proposals, structure and purpose. Let's say what should be the title, summary. You need to provide a little summary, and what is the overall purpose, relevant background literature. You have to have research questions, definitions of terms, research methodology, which is also important, anticipated problems and limitations. Okay, so I won't discuss these things, but mostly you have to keep these things in mind when you are going to, so talking about proposing research and again the significance of the research, resources. I mean, even ethics is also important. Ethics, and especially in linguistic fieldwork, we are concerned about the ethics, and not really linguistic fieldwork, especially in pure science researches, physics, biology, and all. So ethics part is really important. Let's say you're collecting some blood sample of someone, or maybe something, and as a result, the person do not want to share the information with other people. So you have to take their consent also. And you cannot write something, against their consent, you cannot make that thing in public as well, and so ethics is really important. In JNU, we have ethical review board also, which was proposed by Professor Vaishnav Narang, and later on still the ethics is there in different universities, different places, different ethics things are there. And references and appendix are also important. Let's say bibliography, Dr. Arunim Bandyopadhyay was talking about references and bibliography, so that how to quote, whether it's Emily style and other style, whichever the style you follow, you have to be consistent. So today I will be talking about references, how to write references. Maybe Dr. Sonu Soni will tell you more about how to write references and about the appendix things also. And maybe if you have doubts or something, maybe in future, if I can also interact with you. So, and this is within 10 minutes, this is where I'll tell you the research methods. And since you are coming from literature background and the data, what is the nature of data and what kind of methods you are kind of following. So nature of data, mostly if you're talking about linguistics, in linguistics, we do have data, both primary and secondary data. Maybe in literature, you may not have primary data. You may have secondary data as well. Okay. So depending on that, you have to have a different kind of data collection techniques, and what kind of methods you should have in your mind, you see. So I'll just briefly talk about this and then end my lecture, and then I'll take questions and we can interact. Okay. So how much data is needed? At times people say that, how much data is needed. You see, at times it depends on, and depends on the research questions, depend on also the time framework you're talking about. And as initially live and works on Pushkin, he was talking about, Dr. Arunim was talking about, it cannot be done. Yeah, it cannot be done in PhD, but let's say you are doing a huge project, compiling things, and you got a huge project from UGC or maybe from Russian government. So you are looking at drive and works of Pushkin, all these works, that can be done. And you got more than 15 years or 20 years, or maybe 10 years, that can be done. So how much data is needed? That also depends on, let's say, which is the time frame and what are the things, what kind of research questions you have in your mind, you see. At times people do random selection of text. That's what I was talking about, this thing to Sonuji last time that random selection text is good, but at times even the text should be selected in such a way that yes, these are the arguments why I have selected this text, and you should have a valid argument that why you have selected this text. If it is novel, it's novel. If it's short stories, the short stories is fine. If it is a poem, it's also fine, let's say. But you should have kind of argument for that, you know. Okay, so this is where so these types of data elicitation techniques and methods. So observation method, one of the method we always talk about, observation method. So observational adequacy, descriptive adequacy, explanatory adequacy, and intuition, especially in linguistics, we follow all this: observation, descriptive adequacy, explanatory adequacy, and as well as intuition, especially if you're working on generative tradition. So I'll not discuss this, what is mainly descriptive adequacy, explanatory adequacy, and intuition, but somehow you observe, you describe, and explain is something like, yes, based on your observational things. You also try to go on the mind, you know, what is going on in the mind, and also how children acquire language. And at times, talking about the grammatical judgment, which is wrong, grammatically correct or not, we depend our intuition, you know, and there are many cases we depend on our intuition. So in linguistics, we follow all that kind of things. One of the method is also interview method. We also collect data, interview people. There are different interview techniques we talk about. Sending questionnaire method, you must have seen these days in your email IDs, many people are sending you question, you know, try to analyze certain things or something, you know, so they do send questions. And another thing is documentary source method. Documentary source method is something, since you do not have primary materials, so your analysis is based on the secondary materials. Let's say, especially in your case, since you're a student of literature, so what you are going to do, let's say poem or short stories or something, so your analysis mainly based on the secondary materials, you see, not the first, because the person who has written the text or the novel, maybe the person is not alive, maybe he is dead. Or if he is, let's say, alive, definitely you can also go and ask that person his perspective about why he has written it, and what does he think about it, and all that kind of things. So there are different kind of methods we talked about. Observation method, as I already told you. So observation, you need to observe, and you should have a pretty good vast knowledge about the language and the community if you're observing something, you know, and you should know about the community. And observation method is really good. Interview method, and one of the best method is the interview method, widely used method for field investigation, especially in linguistics. We interview people, and not only interview, even other places also interview methods are used. And sending questionnaire method, as I told you, that kind of fill them out kind of things. And at times it's not a reliable method, because we do not understand whether the person is interested or not. And so maybe he's not interested and did not take it seriously. So at times it's at times good for, especially in linguistics, acceptability thing. And mainly if in especially in election also, you see that these things are also used, whether next time, let's say whether Mamata Banerjee will win, or let's say BJP will win. So that kind of survey you can conduct, also sending questionnaire method or something, simple questions and yes or no, that kind of things. In linguistics, we talked about grammaticality, acceptability, and some other things. Okay. And documentary source method, especially in historical linguistics, published materials, you know, literature. So we do use the documentary source method. Okay. And especially literature, it's also. So theory independent, yeah, some people, they're totally theory independent. It's also bad to be theory blind, is also bad. So you need to be eclectic, you need to be open-minded, not hung up to a particular theory. Definitely you're following a theoretical model, but should not be blind, theory blind, you see. And it should not be rigid, and theory dependency binds the field worker hands and restrict their vision. So, and whichever the field you are working on, let's say, you should know things, and okay, and let's say, and these are the things, especially in the field work, some of the informations, when you're talking about collecting data or information, these are the very, very important things. Information, introductory procedures, name of the informant, who is the informant, whether sex, male, female, or transgender, age, languages known, whether it's multilingual or monolingual, occupation, social class, date and place of birth, location, time and date, because all these things does matter a lot. This information, introductory procedures, if you say date and place of birth, maybe you may find that certain kind of pronunciation because the person is born there, location, and there are many other things. Okay, so and in total, since I was talking about research proposals, so these are the things. At least you should have a title, you should have an abstract, though I did not discuss about abstract in detail, but you should have a title, you should have an abstract. Let's see, even if you're writing an article should have an abstract. What is your aims and objectives? It should be very clear. What kind of research questions you have? You should not have many research questions. That's what I was telling. Even Arunim was saying the same thing, research questions. Hypothesis, you should have a hypothesis. And let's say if it is a thesis, dissertation, or article, or maybe for that matter, your term paper. So these are some of the things you have to: introduction, research methodology, existing literature review, main body of your work or the chapters we're talking about, and analysis and your observation, your own analysis and your observation, and conclusion, and references or bibliography. There is a difference between reference and bibliography. Bibliography is list of things. Reference is something like whatever you have referred in the main body of text, it has to be there. Bibliography could be list of things, like suggested readings or something, you see. And appendices again, extra things which you unnecessarily somehow do not overload your thesis or your work. So you are adding these appendices in the form of appendixes. Okay, so these are the things, very important things in the research proposal or in research methodology. If you're writing a synopsis, writing a term paper, and these are some of the things you need to keep in mind. And that's what I'm saying. These are the suggested readings I have consulted, and these are some of the references. And okay, so these are some of the references. So thank you all for listening. And if you have any questions, any doubts, or whichever, so you can just ask me. I'm free. Thank you, Dr. Sanu sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ray. It was really good, and in a very short period of time, you explained a lot of things.
I think there is some issue with the net. Am I audible?
I can hear you, but
okay. Yeah, actually, I'm connected with two devices because of the network, or some technical issue is there. But that's okay. I hope it's audible now.
Yeah, you're audible. Yes.
So basically, what I was saying that yeah, you have tried to
summarize a lot of things in that much short period of time. You elaborated a lot of things. Thank you very much for this wonderful interaction, a wonderful lecture even. And then now we are inviting all our colleagues who are here for this the interaction. If they have questions, if they have any doubt, they may directly ask Dr. Ray. And before others gear up in thinking of the questions, we have meanwhile when you were speaking, we got a question from Abhijit, who is also our scholar, and he wrote the questions in Hindi, and then he said, क्या रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी में ये भी बातें शामिल हो सकती हैं, मानसिक तनाव कैसे उभरा जाए और एक अच्छे रिसर्च के लिए, जो बच्चे रिसर्च के दौरान अक्सर अवसाद में चले जाते हैं. एंड देयर इज सेकंड क्वेश्चन, जो दूसरा सवाल उन्होंने पूछा है कि क्या सुपरवाइजर अपने छात्रों के फाइनेंशियल कंडीशन को भी ध्यान में रख उसको सहायता प्रदान करते हैं कि वो एक अच्छा रिसर्च कर पाए.
So yes, दोनों जो है ना बहुत पर्टिनेंट एंड बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है सनु जी, क्योंकि मैंने जो है देखा, मतलब अपने एक्सपीरियंस से देखा सेंटर फॉर लिंग्विस्टिक्स में क्या होता है, बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स जो है बाहर से रूरल बैकग्राउंड से आते हैं, एंड इट्स नॉट ओनली सेंटर फॉर लिंग्विस्टिक्स, इन आई थिंक मोस्ट ऑफ द centers in JNU, and that's what JNU stands for. Let's say we attract students from different part and parcel, nook and corner of the country. So the financially जो background जो थोड़ा सा weak background से आते हैं, उनके लिए बहुत दिक्कतें होती है, क्योंकि after MA, so there is an expectation. That's what I was talking about. There is an expectation from the family that आपको मतलब आपका फैमिली चलाना है, और इस टाइम पे जो है आप क्या कर रहे हो, आपके दोस्त लोग कोई शादी कर चुके हैं और किसी की शादी हो चुकी है, और कोई कमा रहा है और आप क्या कर रहे हो, और मान के चलो आपके पास रिसर्च जो भी जो नेट और नॉन नेट JRF स्कॉलर है, आप जानते हैं वो 5,000 और 8,000, अगर JRF वाले हैं तो थोड़ा सा जो भी पैसा मिलता है 30,000 के आसपास, then it is good. So what happened, let's say you need to understand that somehow supervisor, as a supervisor, we try to definitely help. If the students, they come up with some kind of genuine issue, that sir, I have been facing this and that. But let's say, if you were totally feel like, let's say, depend on supervisor, sir, मैं आपके अंडर काम कर रहा हूँ तो मुझे हेल्प करना ही पड़ेगा आपको, ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता है, क्योंकि there is a policy. Let's say there are different ways, there are different, even state governments, they provide fellowship. Let's say if you're coming from different background, whether it's a whichever the caste background or let's say state background, I had seen that there are many cases the state also provides some additional fellowship, and also UGC ICCCR fellowship is also there. So to some extent, if it is a genuine cause, students definitely, I personally try to help students. In many cases, I helped in many students. And talking about the emotional cases, and in JNU, we had seen different cases. 2-4 साल बाद क्या होते हैं, स्टूडेंट जो है ना कोप अप नहीं कर पाते हैं, and as a result they leave the institute, और किसी के साथ शेयर भी नहीं करते हैं. जब तक आप टीचर्स के साथ शेयर नहीं करोगे तो हम कैसे जानेंगे आपकी जो भी बातें चल रही है. सो आई रिमेंबर वन स्टूडेंट, ही वाज डूइंग हिज PhD, एंड कुछ दिन बाद जो है वो चला गया घर जाने के बाद, एंड रीजन इज समथिंग डिफरेंट. ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस, बिकॉज समथिंग पर्सनल हैपेंड टू हिम. हिज फ्रेंड, देयर इज अ रिलेशनशिप वाज गोइंग ऑन एंड हिज फ्रेंड लेफ्ट हिम, and as a result अभी जो ना गांव चले गए और कोई रिस्पॉन्स है नहीं है. So ये जो mental trauma है, and this mental trauma, there are different levels of mental trauma. It could be whatever the family related, it could be a personal problem, but somehow in the central level, if some things you are facing, in my understanding, you need to approach your supervisor, and if supervisor is not accessible at times, you can approach your center chairperson or whoever the person. Even in our center, even if you're talking about health center, we have a psychology expert also. The people who are going under the depression, and some people, they go there also, that kind of psychological things, So this is where the relationship between supervisor and student definitely is academics. At the same time, it should be friendly at the same time, I would say that, because we need to look at students as if like there is a, in Indian tradition, we had seen that Guru Shishya Parampara. So Guru is considered to be above, father or mother at times. Okay. So the teacher will have to look at from that perspective. I remember my teacher, let's say, like in JNU itself, I feel like she is my mother, let's say. I'm not telling the name now, but I feel like and Center for Linguistics, when I was student here, I feel like I am more safer than my home. That kind of feeling I do have when I'm talking about JNU, and also talking about the center itself. Okay, so I think these two questions, really pertinent questions, relevant questions raised by Abhijit or Abhishek. Thank you, Abhishek or Abhijit? Abhijit. Thank you, Abhijit, for raising these two important questions. It's really, we have to be little kind of.
I would also just like to add just a few points. Actually, जब हम साइकोलॉजिस्ट की बात करते हैं तो अक्सर ये सोचते हैं कई लोग कि साइकोलॉजिस्ट पर क्यों जा रहे हैं, शायद पागल हो गया है या समथिंग लाइक दैट, कि एज इफ लाइक वो पागलों का डॉक्टर है, बट नहीं, ऐसा नहीं होता है. एक्चुअली साइकोलॉजिस्ट विल लिसन टू योर प्रॉब्लम फ्रॉम व्हाट यू से द न्यूट्रल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. हो सकता है जब हम अपनी प्रॉब्लम्स किसी अपने दोस्त को बताते हैं तो उनका नजरिया या उनकी सोच जो होती है हमारे लिए वो एक तरह की सेट होती है, तो उनका कई बार हमें उनके आइडियाज या हमारी जब हम प्रॉब्लम्स को डिस्कस कर रहे होते हैं तो उनके आइडियाज से हमारी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाती हैं. बट कई बार उनके भी आइडियाज से अगर सॉल्व नहीं होती हैं तो कोशिश यही कीजिए कि आप चाहे अपने कोई भी प्रॉब्लम हो अपने सुपरवाइजर से कभी भी बात कीजिए, जो भी पॉसिबिलिटी हो. और अगर वहां से भी नहीं सॉल्व हो रही है तो उस केस में साइकोलॉजिस्ट भी एक अच्छा ऑप्शन होता है कि अगर एक और आपको कहिए कि डॉक्टर्स की तरह है कि आपको वेरियस टाइप ऑफ एडवाइस लेनी है, कि कहते हैं हम सेकंड एडवाइस ले लो डॉक्टर से भी जब इलाज कराने जाते हैं या कोई प्रॉब्लम होती है तो एक तो ये चीज है. और दूसरा जो अभी डॉक्टर रे ने कहा कि जो फाइनेंशियल वाली प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, देखिए फाइनेंशियल वाली प्रॉब्लम्स हमेशा आती हैं, कई बार ऐसी चीजें होती हैं कि आती हैं हमारे पास में, तो ऐसे में कोई हिचक नहीं करनी चाहिए डिस्कस करने के लिए. मतलब उसकी वजह से आप तनाव में रहें तो आप काम नहीं कर पाएंगे. और एक और चीज वैसे मैं ऐड करना चाहूंगा कि अक्सर ये देखा जाता है, रे साहब आपसे भी मैं थोड़ी इस पे टिप्पणी चाहूंगा कि हम जिस स्कॉलर्स होते हैं कई बार वो हिचकिचाते हैं या कई बार प्रॉब्लम्स होती हैं या कई बार कई बिजी होते हैं तो वो अक्सर सुपरवाइजर से कांटेक्ट खो देते हैं. और इसकी वजह से जब रिसर्च का जो टाइम है, जो पीएचडी का पीरियड है या एमफिल का पीरियड है, वो जब एंड होने को आता है, खत्म होने को आता है, तब वो सुपरवाइजर के पास पहुंचते हैं कि मुझे क्या करना है. उसकी वजह से क्या होता है कि अक्सर फिर कॉपी पेस्ट वाला सिचुएशन स्टार्ट हो जाता है अक्सर, या फिर जो लो क्वालिटी है रिसर्च की वो आ जाती है. तो these are all the factors like which comes if you approach the supervisor at the end. और उस वक्त में सुपरवाइजर भी आपकी बहुत सारी चीजें चेक नहीं कर पाते हैं, लास्ट मोमेंट पे वो ना ही प्लेजरिज्म चेक कर पाते हैं. तो होता यही है जो अभी आपने कहा that कि if you copy and paste without references, then maybe not today, but as like Arunim sir was saying that it may be caught tomorrow, especially when you are going to get something. अक्सर ये देखा गया है कि अगर कोई किसी वक्त में आप मानिए 10 साल बाद में आपको कोई जॉब मिलने वाली है, आपको कोई या कहीं प्रमोशन होने वाला है, या कोई आपका कुछ अच्छा कुछ एक चीज है, कोई रिजल्ट आपकी मेहनत का मिलने वाला है, उसी वक्त में या उससे जस्ट 1-2 दिन पहले इस तरह के बॉम्बिंग होते हैं जिसको आपको टारगेट करना होता है. वो ये सब चीजें देखते हैं कि अच्छा देखते हैं इसका थीसिस कैसा था या इसका टर्म पेपर कैसा था. तो अगर टर्म पेपर में भी प्लेजरिज्म निकलता है, जो कि हमने देखते हैं अक्सर निकलता है, तो उससे आपकी एमए की डिग्री भी कैंसिल हो जाती है. तो उस बेस पे जो आपको मिलने वाला होगा, चाहे वो कहीं जॉब है, चाहे वो कोई रिवॉर्ड है या अवार्ड है, वो सब कैंसिल हो जाते हैं. उस केस में वो सारे फिर कैंसिल हो जाते हैं. तो इसीलिए एक ये चीज जो है, इससे कैसे कॉप अप करें सभी स्टूडेंट्स जो लास्ट मोमेंट पर हम लोग मिलते हैं सुपरवाइजर से या लास्ट मोमेंट पे काम करते हैं. आप उस पर क्या कहना चाहेंगे? What would you say?
तो एक चीज तो मैं फाइनेंशियल चीज को लेके फिर से जो कमेंट जब आप, सो इफ यू टॉक अबाउट द फाइनेंशियल थिंग मेनली, जैसे ये जो कोविड क्राइसिस पिछले ऑलमोस्ट देखा जाए तो एक महीने ऑलमोस्ट 1 साल होने वाला है. तो जब ऑनलाइन क्लासेस शुरू हो गया जेएनयू में, सो some students of our center, they also said that they are staying in a rural places and all, even financially they come from very weaker section. So as you know that JNU did not have that kind of plan, they will be giving students some financial help and all. But हमारे सेंटर से एक रेजोल्यूशन पास किया गया था, जो स्टूडेंट्स रियली फाइनेंशियली वीक बैकग्राउंड से आ रहे हैं, एमसीएम बैकग्राउंड से आ रहे हैं, तो उनको जो है ना हम लोग एज ए फैकल्टी कुछ कंट्रीब्यूट करेंगे और जो भी है उनका इंटरनेट चार्ज का पैसा हम लोग दे देंगे. तो center made a committee and few students also approached to the center, and then anyway, तो हम अपने लेवल से जितना कोशिश कर सकते हैं हम करेंगे. मतलब मेरे कहने का मतलब यही है. तो आपको शेयर करना चाहिए। नंबर 1, जो भी प्रॉब्लम्स हो रहा है, ये चीजें आप अगर शेयर नहीं करेंगे तो हमको कैसे पता चलेगा। ये दूसरी बात ये है, जब ये जो सोनू सर ने कहा है, जो मेनली जैसे पीएचडी का क्या होता है, 4 साल हो रहा है, तो 4 साल में अगर देखेंगे एक पीएचडी डिसर्टेशन में और थीसिस में कम से कम 5 to 6 चैप्टर्स तो होता ही है। कम से कम 5-6 चैप्टर्स मान के चले, इंट्रोडक्शन है, कंक्लूजन है, रेफरेंसेस है, तो ये सब करते करते काफी टाइम लग जाएगा उसी। तो आप एक टेंटेटिव प्लान बनाना चाहिए, जो हाँ ठीक है, 1 साल के अंदर मैं 2 चैप्टर रेडी करूंगा, 2 साल के अंदर मान के चलो 3 चैप्टर हो जाएगा, और 4 साल के अंदर इतना होगा रेफरेंसेस। सो एक टेंटेटिव प्लान लेके आपको चलना पड़ेगा, और उसी हिसाब से आपको अपना जो सुपरवाइजर है, सुपरवाइजर को बताना चाहिए, सर दिस इज व्हाट आई एम प्लानिंग टू डू। देखिए कभी कभी क्या होता है, supervisor is definitely accessible, but in some cases he or she may not be accessible. तो तब आपको कम से कम एक रिमाइंडर भेजना चाहिए। मान के चलिए मैं खुद ही कर रहा था, मतलब बिकॉज मेरे चैप्टर जो है टीचर को पास भेजा, तो मान के चलो 2 महीने तक जो है ना कोई रिप्लाई नहीं आया, तो मैं फिर से एक रिमाइंडर भेजा सर। उसके बाद मान लो 10 दिन 15 दिन हो गया, फिर से नहीं आ रहा है, मान के चलो एजम्पशन, मान के चलो नहीं आ रहा, और एक रिमाइंडर भेजो, तो 2 महीने हो गया, मान के चलिए 3 महीने हो गया, तो आएगा तो जरूर। और ऐसी भी बात नहीं है, अगर टीचर के घर पे आप जाना चाहते हैं, सेंटर में तो ज्यादातर जेएनयू में तो टीचर्स रहते ही हैं, आप उनका रूम पे भी जा सकते हो। दैट शुड नॉट बी द एक्सक्यूज दैट हाँ उन्होंने मेरा कोई रिप्लाई ही नहीं दिया। हाँ अगर रिप्लाई नहीं दे रहा है तो आप इस चीज को भी इस इशू को भी रेज कर सकते हो मेरे ख्याल से, that my supervisor is not accessible, he is not giving me time. If this is the case, you can be assigned or reassigned a different supervisor. हमारे सेंटर में सोनू जी रिसेंटली ऐसा हुआ है, स्पेशली 2 चीज हुआ था सुपरवाइजर एंड को सुपरवाइजर के बीच में। whatever happened, then को सुपरवाइजर जो भी है, हम जैसे बात कर रहा था, मैं सुपरवाइजर एंड को सुपरवाइजर के साथ बात करके आपको काम करना पड़ेगा। को सुपरवाइजर जो है ना 3 साल से स्टूडेंट्स को सुपरवाइजर को चैप्टर दे रही है, और को सुपरवाइजर कुछ कर ही नहीं रही है। फाइनली सेंटर में डीन के साथ एक कमिटी बनी गई है, बनने के बाद उन फाइनली स्टूडेंट ने लिखा, तो को सुपरवाइजर ने लिख दिया, यस in such a condition, since you did not meet me for more than 3 years, so I am not able to see your chapter or something. So on that basis को सुपरवाइजर को हमने हटा दिया था। और कुछ केसेस में ऐसा भी होता है, I am telling you, in different centers also in JNU, when supervisor is not accessible, or it is found true that yes supervisor is not accessible, so he can be maybe the student can be assigned or reassigned a new supervisor। होता भी है, बहुत सारे केसेस में होता है, आपने सुना भी है, लेकिन उस लेवल तक हमको जाने का जरूरत नहीं है, मुझे लगता है, मतलब मेरा पर्सनल अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, क्यों हम उस लेवल तक जाए। ठीक है, तो पहले से सुपरवाइजर के साथ एक टेंटेटिव टाइम टेबल बनाइए, सर ये टॉपिक मेरा अप्रूव हुआ है। देखिए सीए सर से पहले तो सीए सेंटर आपका रशियन स्टडीज में अप्रूव होगा, अप्रूव होने के बाद वो सीए सर में जाएगा, सीए सर उसके बाद कॉन्फर्मेशन बोर्ड ऑफ स्टडीज में जाता है, उसके बाद जो भी टाइम आपको मिलता है 3 साल 4 साल, एक टेंटेटिव आप प्लान बनाइए, इस हिसाब से हम काम करना चाहते हैं। सर मैंने इस काम के लिए मान के चलो 6 नॉवेल्स मैंने लिया, तो 6 नॉवेल्स का इनिशियल एनालिसिस में दो नॉवेल का इनिशियल एनालिसिस पढ़ के मैं आपको मान के चलो 6 महीने के अंदर भेजूंगा, अगले वाला मान के चलो 6 महीने, 1 साल में 4 हो गया, 1.5 साल में और 2 हो गया। तो ये जो भी आपका प्लान है एक सुपरवाइजर के साथ बात करिए, एंड आई थिंक इस तरह से अगर आप क्लियर कट एक क्लैरिटी के साथ आते हैं तो मुझे लगता है ऐसा कोई दिक्कत नहीं होगी। एंड मोस्टली मैं अपनी एक्सपीरियंस ही बताऊंगा, क्योंकि जितने सारे स्टूडेंट्स मेरे साथ काम कर रहे हैं, एंड मोस्टली 2 of them have already joined, like Riti Sarkar, I think Sonali Mahant, both of them joined, they are going to submit. So I'm very, very straightforward, and I tell them, see, this is your baby, this is your work, you have to do. I'm here to just simply to some extent monitor you, guide you, If you are doing something wrong, I will tell you. But I cannot write your thesis, the whole chapter and everything. It is your baby. You need to nurture it, So, and do not come in the 11th hour, in the last minute, If you come in the last minute, आपको बाद में फ्यूचर में क्या लगेगा ना, आपको खुद को ही खराब लगेगा. मान के चलिए 4 साल तक एक काम किया है आपने, और बाद में ऐसे लग रहा है क्या भाई, ऐसा काम दो, बहुत घटिया काम है, किसी को शेयर भी नहीं कर पा रहे वो वाला काम. तो उस टाइप का काम करने का जरूरत ही क्या है. अच्छा से काम करिए, so that at least you can show it to the people that yes, I have done my best, this is what I could do. इस टाइप का अगर एटीट्यूड और अप्रोच होगा मेरे ख्याल से, तब दिक्कत नहीं होगी सोनू जी.
Dr. Ray, we have two participants who have just raised the hands, and maybe I'll invite Mr. Shah. Mr. Shah, can you please unmute your mic?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Please tell us where you're joining from, or which center you're from, and then ask your question.
Good afternoon, all.
This is Shahnawaz, I think. Okay, Mr.
Yes.
Shah, you are with the short form. Shahnawaz is from Center for Russian Studies, MA. Yes, Shahnawaz, please go ahead.
Sir, I have a question here. Like a person like me, who is skilled in IT background, and I continued studying JNU because of not because of that I will get any job, or it is just for personal satisfaction that I continued my studies. And I want to know if it would be a wise idea to continue with PhD. My driver for study is not money. I'm not money. Money is not a factor in my approach towards the study. Right now, because of the COVID situation, I'm working from home. After this meeting, probably I'll be starting working in next 1 hour or something. And I just want to know if I do not get any scholarship to continue or to fund my studies, will it be a wise idea to continue working and continue with PhD as well?
Yes, Dr.
So talking about your case, let's say, I'm not talking about the literature thing, but the linguistics you are talking about, that you have doing Russian, MA in Russian from, you must have done some IT means.
I am a skilled worker in ITIL, Information Technology in Infrastructure Library.
Okay. So mostly if you talk about, especially in linguistics, there are many students, they come and join, especially in our department, and they do MA linguistics, and they in future also they continue with their PhD. And why I'm saying MA linguistics, so what happens nowadays, I'll talk about the linguistics perspective. See, this is the well-developed branch what we talk about computational linguistics. And all that kind of applications, because since the programming thing, let's say, since you are from IT background, the programming, whatever C++, Java and all other things. But talking about the linguistic nitty-gritty and rules, if you do not know the linguistic nitty-gritty and the rules, and it is very difficult for the, especially the computational, the people who are looking at all that kind of things, it's very difficult. So many people, they come and join and do linguistics, all that kind of courses with us, whether it's generative syntax, all that kind of theory and all, they learn about all this, whether it's the phonology. Let's say you're trying to develop a speech recognition software, So what kind of pronunciation? It's an Indian customer. So what kind of voice modulation you need to do, let's say. So even in the same time, if you're talking about, let's say, in railway, let's say Patna se aane wali gaadi late hai. So the mechanism, Patna se aane wali gaadi late hai, definitely being an IT person, you know that how to. But the internal mechanism, the rules, the syntactic rules, morphological rules, and all other things, it is provided by the linguist. And at times, your basic general kind of understanding doesn't help, let's say. So many IT people, they come to us, they do lots of courses in our center, as well as the center like Girishnath Jha is also prominent one. He does computational linguistics, you see. And so talking about the literature thing, since you are doing MA literature, so Sonuji will tell you, let's say, whether you should continue with your MA literature or something. But let's see, if you come to linguistics, you have a very good future ahead, I can tell you. Very, very good future ahead, because most of the IITs, whether you are talking about Delhi IIT and all other IITs, in the humanities, linguistics been introduced, and these people are getting job easily. So I do not know about your aims and aspirations, but mostly people, they have a huge prospect if they are coming into linguistics, especially the IT people. And talking about doing research, the next part of your question is that whether you should continue with your research or not. See, it is your personal decision. That's what I was telling in the beginning. It is your personal decision. So one should not force you. So you should take research as a kind of interest, intellectual excitement, let's say. See, I'll tell you, research as something like, it's kind of, for many people, it's for bread and butter. I can understand. Bread and butter, let's say, for people after doing their MPhil and PhD, they'll get a job because it's a requirement. For many people, they come from, financially very good background. For them, no, I'm doing PhD is for my intellectual excitement. You must have seen many people after the retirement, after 60 years also, they are continuing with their PhD. Why? Because it is the intellectual excitement. And I also told in the beginning that if you're talking about the degree thing, and no, degree doesn't matter at times. Degree doesn't matter at times. So Mr. Shah, so I would tell you that to some extent, it is you decide whether to go or continue with your higher studies. So, and higher studies definitely help, let's say, in future as well, let's say, and if you get the scope or opportunity to pursue your PhD, either from Russia or from India, or maybe this Fulbright, as a Fulbright scholar, let's say, if you can go and visit those countries and teach whichever the languages. So if you get the scope to pursue your higher studies, I think you must proceed. But the decision, whichever the decision you take, is totally, it is up to you. Okay.
Thank you, sir. It's been really helpful. Thank you.
Just ask Shahnawaz, first of all, can you tell me that what have you done exactly in IT?
Sir, I have done BTech in IT, and I've worked in IT companies like Dell Computers, Microsoft, and right now in Intersoft Data Labs.
Okay, and what is your profile over there? Like, what is your task?
I'm responsible for running the stores of Bed and Bath Beyond. This is a store chain in the US and Canada and Mexico, and I'm responsible for running their day-to-day operations there. Like if they are facing any, suppose a network, the network is down in one store, so it is my responsibility to make them up and running.
Okay. And as you said that, why did you join this Russian?
Well, I wanted to do, initially I wanted to, study a foreign language,
Okay.
as of my interest. And then I decided to, if I'm doing it, let's do it from one of the prominent universities. I got to know about JNU that they offer courses, and I appeared. Actually, I was, let me tell you frankly, that I was not very happy at, when I was working in 2015, 2016 period. I mean, not happy in the sense that I was not happy what I'm doing in life. So I decided to let's pursue a foreign language. Then I appeared for JNU entrance exam, and then I cleared it. And in fact, I cleared the JNU exam twice. First time I was not able to continue because everything was new. I was not able to, continue, join classes on time. and appear for the exam on time, because I was simultaneously working, and it was sudden change in my life. So I was not able to cope up with it. So I left it. And then next year I rejoined it. And then I left the job. I've got plenty of money saved. So I thought, let's give it a chance. So I continue. And once the BA is complete, I started enjoying it. And now I'm in MA. And I think that I'm enjoying it more, and I'm very excited with the perspective. If I push from here a little bit harder, probably I would be a PhD scholar in next year. So that's why I'm asking if it is a wise idea to work for 9 hours and invest like 4 or 5 hours daily for my PhD.
No,
That
I have a one brilliant idea. It's upon you, like whether you would like to take it or not. Like when I started learning Russian, maybe Hariji also didn't know this thing. I was in MA, and I like one of our good teachers, he suggested that try to combine your Russian with something else. So at that time, I then joined MBA in IT and combined it with Russian. And later on, like I realized like that combination, joining Russian language with IT was brilliant. Like today I'm enjoying it, I'm working in it. And that is what I can suggest, like you have skilled in IT. So if you would like to continue, then continue with your interest, like your interest is there in IT and your interest is there in Russian. If you want to continue, then combine these two fields and bring out something new. You may continue working with whatever you're working in, and later on, like when you have a lot of experience, then of course you can join any Russian company, or you can take over any Russian such IT sector where like you have good knowledge over research. Because PhD is what? PhD is basically a kind of practice of your research. As Arunim sir was saying earlier, that it is just a kind of practice, and then your real research starts after your PhD. That later on, like after doing PhD, after having this experience of research and having experience in IT, combine it, or maybe in PhD you combine it and then move ahead. Then it will give a good fusion, because it happens like when this sector requires a kind of a specialist, and if there is a person who has the IT specialty and as well as Russian, so they will not leave you. Like they will just come home and pick you up. Like these ads are being made, like that Junior King, something like coding type of thing. They'll come and grab you from home.
That's true, Sonoji. Let's say Shah's case, he has lots of experience, let's say in the IT, and I think especially software and other things. Let's say, and this is a rough suggestion, not necessarily from language and linguistics point of view. See, when Indians, they have typical way, especially whether they speak English, or maybe when they're learning Russian, they have different problems also, let's say. So why not categorize the problems and try to say, or maybe try to develop the software or something, or maybe app or something for initial Russian learners or something. Because for me, let's say for Sonoji also, maybe Sonoji has that background, but let's say other teachers, they cannot develop that app, in a short span of time. So especially what we do, I'm telling this, we work on different languages, especially those lesser known languages, as I told you. So we have the data, we have the dictionary. So the dictionary nowadays, so let's say I have the data, but I do not know how to make that data into an app. So I have to get the help, let's say. So work in the direction, let's say. This is a rough idea I'm telling you, maybe in the literature also. So for you, it is very good and interesting. And that's what once you know what to do. And in this case, what I have found that in your case, it's an intellectual excitement. If it is intellectual excitement, and I think you'll enjoy it a lot, because other people, for them, it is a kind of bread and butter, because they have lots of things to do, liability, responsibility, and other stuff. But in your case, So you will contribute more in the field, whether it's Russian literature, Russian language and literature, from Indian point of view as well as from the Russian point of view. So you will be in huge demand, Mr. Shah.
Yes, yes. So we have now Farooq. Actually, we went in detail answering your question too. Okay, let's go. We'll try to be precise. Farooq, you have question. I think हाथ में दर्द भी हो गया होगा. फारूक ने इतनी देर से हाथ उठाया हुआ है. Yes, Farooq.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Farooq, बोलिए.
Sir, first of all, I'm very much thankful to Dr. Madhab, sir. I heard before about him, but today we had this so kind and so nice lecture over research methodology. Sir, my question is that, let's say I'm doing on linguistic analysis. I'm doing my research on linguistic analysis, right? And I want to point out the pattern, the style and the way of writing of any particular writer, right? So my aim is to find out the pattern and style, linguistic pattern of his writing. This is my aim. At the same time, it may be called as the objective of my research. So I can't differentiate between these two words. What is aim and objective? Because this is the simultaneously comes in the synopsis in written form की aims and objective लिखा रहता है, तो उसमें क्या क्या लिखना है. तो मुझे फर्क नहीं पता कि aim में क्या लिखे फिर objective में क्या लिखे. Are they two things are different? Are they same?
अच्छा, तो सोनू जी
प्लीज आप बताइए प्लीज, और मे बी इसमें स्कोप भी ऐड कर दीजिए, बिकॉज़ स्कोप एम ऑब्जेक्टिव अक्सर इसमें कंफ्यूजन रहती है.
अच्छा, पहली चीज ये फारूक, जैसे आप स्टाइलिस्टिक्स के बारे में बात कर रहे थे, एनालिसिस ऑफ, देखिए पहले एक चीज हम लोगों ने डिस्कस किया था, जो ये ब्रॉड हम लोग को इतना नहीं होना है, हम लोग को थोड़ा नैरो डाउन करना पड़ेगा अपना टॉपिक को. नंबर 1, तो जो अरुणिम सर ने कहा माइक्रो एंड मैक्रो, ही सेड मैक्रो स्टडी एंड माइक्रो स्टडी, हम लोग को माइक्रो लेवल पे स्टडी करना है, ठीक है. दूसरी बात यह है, देखिए आप जैसे बोल रहे हैं स्टाइलिस्टिक एनालिसिस और एनालिसिस ऑफ समथिंग, देखिए इसमें इतना बड़ा लिंग्विस्टिक एनालिसिस जब आप बोलेंगे, मान के चलिए आप बोल रहे हैं लिंग्विस्टिक एनालिसिस ऑफ शॉर्ट स्टोरीज, देखिए इतना एक वर्ड्स और लार्ज टॉपिक है फारूक, क्योंकि देखिए लिंग्विस्टिक्स एक ऐसी फील्ड है, लिंग्विस्टिक वर्ड के अंदर मेरे ख्याल से इतना कितना सारा चीजें हैं. देखिए जो ग्रामर का जो मेन चीज है, फोनेटिक्स है, फोनोलॉजी है, मॉर्फोलॉजी है, सिंटैक्स है, सिमेंटिक्स है, प्रैग्मेटिक्स है, सोशियो लिंग्विस्टिक्स का एस्पेक्ट है, और भी बहुत सारे चीजें, जैसे मैं कॉम्पिटिशनल लिंग्विस्टिक्स की जो बात कर रहा हूँ वो भी आ जाएगी, थोड़ी cognitive linguistics की बात आएगी.
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, when I say linguistic analysis, I want to do linguistic analysis. The following things will come, like morphology, lexicology, stylistic, and syntactic, syntactic, right? So I want to analyze linguistically on these topics on a particular writer, like let's say Chekhov, right? I want to analyze linguistically the writing pattern of his writing of short stories.
हाँ, तो यही बता रहा हूँ फारूक, वही चीज को मैं बता रहा हूँ. तो इसमें जैसे शॉर्ट स्टोरीज का आपने लिया है ना, तो देखिए शॉर्ट स्टोरीज आपने जब लिया है, देखिए शॉर्ट स्टोरीज में क्या है, एक तो उसको भी हम देखिए फोनोलॉजिकली देख सकते हैं, मॉर्फोलॉजिकली देख सकते हैं, ठीक है, सिमेंटिकली देखते हैं. तो इसमें एक कोर्स है, आप हो सकता है सोनू जी आपको बाद में बताएंगे, मैं एक कोर्स पढ़ाता हूँ स्टाइलिस्टिक्स एंड इंट्रोडक्शन टू स्टाइलिस्टिक्स. तो स्टाइलिस्टिक्स की ये बात होती है, स्टाइलिस्टिक्स के स्टाइल जो है, स्टाइल को किस तरह से देखा जाता है. तो एक चीज हम बात करते हैं फोरग्राउंडिंग फीचर्स. तो शॉर्ट स्टोरी जब आप लेंगे ना, शॉर्ट स्टोरीज में देखिए उसको डिफरेंट लेवल पे, फोनोलॉजिकल लेवल पे, मॉर्फोलॉजिकल लेवल पे, तो आपको उसमें भी थोड़ा सा नैरो डाउन करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि शॉर्ट स्टोरीज कितना लेंगे, सब चीज अगर आप एनालाइज करने जाएंगे ना, तो आपको बहुत ज्यादा टाइम लगेगा, जो भी टाइम है 4 साल 5 साल. सो समथिंग लाइक लेट्स से मैं बात कर रहा हूँ पोएम का, मान के चले आपने कुछ पोएम लिया है, तो पोएम में क्या इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है, पोएम में बेसिकली ज्यादातर अगर हम क्लासिकल पोएम देखेंगे, पहले जो पोएम लिखी गई है वो रिदम होगा, मीटर होगा, ऑल दिस थिंग्स यू विल फाइंड, यू नो, iambic meter, whether it's talking and accent देखेंगे, all this kind देखेंगे. तो मेन चीज वही है, थोड़ा नैरो डाउन करना पड़ेगा आपको. जिस तरह से बोल रहे हैं लेक्सिकल एनालिसिस, मॉर्फोलॉजिकल एनालिसिस, फोनोलॉजिकल एनालिसिस, इतना सारा नहीं हो सकता है. ठीक है, थोड़ा नैरो डाउन होके उसको देखना पड़ेगा. दूसरी चीज है आपकी जो सवाल है, और रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी में हम लोगों को ये भी देखना पड़ेगा जो किसका थ्योरेटिकल अप्रोच हम लिए हैं. फारूक, ये चीज थोड़ा सा आपको, सिंस यू आर परस्यूइंग योर एमए, हम लोगों को एक थ्योरेटिकल अंडरस्टैंडिंग लेना पड़ेगा. स्पेशली स्टाइलिस्टिक्स में अगर हम देखेंगे, जो रशियन फॉर्मलिज्म जो है ना, रशियन फॉर्मलिज्म स्टार्टेड विथ रोमान याकोब्सन एज वेल एज प्राग स्कूल, जो लिंग्विस्ट है रोमान याकोब्सन, ट्रूबेट्स्कॉय, जो स्टाइलिस्टिक्स का फीचर्स रशिया से ही उभर के आया है, मतलब पूरा वर्ल्ड में बेसिकली. सो रशिया हैज लेड अस स्पेशली इन दिस डायरेक्शन, यू नो, जो हम स्टाइलिस्टिक्स की बात करते हैं, यू नो, फोरग्राउंडिंग, डिफेमिलाइजेशन की जब बात करते हैं, तो ये मॉडल रशियन लिंग्विस्ट ने बहुत अच्छे तरीके से दिया है. रोमान याकोब्सन, सोनू जी जानते हैं अच्छे से, प्राग स्कूल का जो इम्पोर्टेंट फिगर है, आप भी जानते हैं. बोरिस है, बहुत सारे लोग हैं उसमें. तो आपको जैसे जैसे शॉर्ट स्टोरी के लिए ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्टिंग लिटरेचर में डिफरेंट टेक्निक्स हैं, लोगों ने काम किया है. जैसे पॉल सिम्पसन, मैं एक नाम बता रहा हूँ, पॉल सिम्पसन, उनने काम किया है शॉर्ट स्टोरी को इस तरह से एनालाइज करना पड़ेगा. ठीक है, मान के चलिए आप नैरेटोलॉजी ले रहा है और नैरेटिव्स ले रहे हैं, नॉवेल ले रहा है, नॉवेल को किस तरह से एनालाइज करना पड़ेगा, ऑलरेडी बहुत सारा काम हो चुका है. ठीक है, तो ये सब एक एग्जिस्टिंग फ्रेमवर्क जो है, लिटरेरी फ्रेमवर्क लेके आपको चलना पड़ेगा दिमाग में. रोमान याकोब्सन बोलिए, मैक हेलिडे बोलिए, मैं जस्ट 2-4 नाम बोल रहा हूँ स्टाइलिस्टिक्स में. ठीक है, तो तभी जो है ना आपको क्लियर कट गोल मिल जाएगा. नहीं तो क्या हुआ ना, फोनोलॉजी का 2-4 चीज ले रहे हो, मॉर्फोलॉजी का 2-4 चीज ले रहे हो, और इसका भी 2-4 चीज ले रहे हो, तो ये बहुत जनरल वर्क होता है. और कहने का मतलब ये है, फ्यूचर में जैसे आजकल क्या हुआ ना, मतलब थोड़ा सा फोकस्ड वे में हम सब देखने का कोशिश करते. ऐसा नहीं है इधर भी थोड़ा लिया, इधर भी थोड़ा लिया, इधर भी नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. अरुणिम सर जो पहला सेंटेंस कह रहे थे, जो फोकस्ड होना है, फोकस, वर्क लाइक एन मेंडिकेंट, वर्क लाइक यू नो, जो भी भिक्षु होके काम करना पड़ेगा, उस टाइप का एटीट्यूड लाइक होके काम करना पड़ेगा. सी नाउ, सो रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी में एक फ्रेमवर्क होना चाहिए. मतलब दूसरी क्वेश्चन जो है आपकी एम्स एंड ऑब्जेक्टिव्स वाली जो क्वेश्चन है, देखिए दोनों चीज एक साथ ही आ रहा है मेनली. So there is not much distinction and difference between aims and objectives, let's say. In most of the cases, you find that aims and objectives are written in the same manner. Okay. So I do not see any clear-cut distinction between aims and objectives of your work. Mostly people they write, और कुछ खेत कांच उसमें तो लिखते भी नहीं है, मतलब ऑब्जेक्टिव से लिख देते, एम्स ना भी लिखते, that's also fine. So it is clubbed together. So the notion is clubbed together by this conjunction aims and objectives. But scope जो है ना, scope थोड़ा सा different होता है. आपका काम का जो है scope is little different. Let's say आप उस level पे kind of let's say linguistics में अगर मैं बताऊं, तो आपका वर्क किस तरह से एक इफेक्ट कर सकता है, किस एरिया में जा रहा है, तो ये सोशल लिंग्विस्टिक रिलेटेड में जा रहा है. और लेट्स से मैं जैसे बात कर रहा हूँ कॉग्निटिव लिंग्विस्टिक्स में, जैसे हम देखते हैं, जैसे आप टेक्स्ट की बात कर रहे हैं ना, जैसे शॉर्ट स्टोरीज का, तो कॉग्निटिव लिंग्विस्टिक्स में ऐसा है, जैसे कॉग्निटिव स्टाइलिस्टिक्स में कोई अगर मान के चलो बोरिस का स्टोरी लेके एनालाइज कर रहा है, तो मैं कॉग्निटिव स्टाइलिस्टिक्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से उस चीज को देखने चाह रहा हूँ. तो कॉग्निटिव स्टाइलिस्टिक्स कैसे करते हैं चीजों को, ये डिफरेंट तरीके से टेक्स्ट को एनालाइज करते हैं. जैसे रीडर उस टेक्स्ट को समझा कि नहीं समझा, वेदर दे हैव अंडरस्टूड द टेक्स्ट और नॉट, तो उसी बेसिस पे जो रीडर्स है उनको सर्वे करेगा, उनको लेट्स से एक्सपेरिमेंट करेगा, उनको सवाल पूछेगा। पहले क्या होता था, जो भी है हमारा मान के चलो पहले, हाँ ठीक है हमने ऐसे समझा और इस तरह से हमने लिख रहा है। कॉग्निटिव स्टाइलिस्टिशियंस एक सर्वे करेगा, एक्सपेरिमेंट चलाएगा, अच्छा ये तो मेटाफोर्स यूज किया जा रहा है, तो वेदर यू हैव अंडरस्टूड दैट मेटाफोर्स और नॉट। तो मान के चलो एक स्पीकर जो है समझा, दूसरा स्पीकर समझा ही नहीं, ठीक है, तो वो मेंटल लेवल पे जाके टेस्ट करता है। और कभी कभी क्या करता है कॉग्निटिव स्टाइलिस्टिक्स विद आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, वो शाह जी है, तो इसमें ना बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीजें हैं। जैसे आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस के साथ साथ जो है ना, जैसे हमारा दिमाग में किस तरह से वो प्रोसेसिंग चल रहा है, किस तरह से अंडरस्टैंडिंग चल रहा है। आजकल जो है ना, मतलब लिंग्विस्टिक इतना ज्यादा एडवांस हो गया, थैंक्स टू दोस आईटी गाइस एंड आल्सो। तो हम जो ना ब्रेन लेवल पे जा सकते हैं, कॉम्प्रिहेंशन जो है ना किस तरह से हो रहा है, सचमुच हमको समझ में आ रही है कि नहीं आ रही है, उस लेवल तक भी जा सकता है, ठीक है। तो एम्स एंड ऑब्जेक्टिव्स जो होता है उसी हिसाब से, जैसे अगर आप कह रहे हैं हाँ शॉर्ट स्टोरीज हम एनालाइज कर रहे हैं उसी का मॉडल को लेते हुए, बट मेरा स्कोप इस टाइप के स्कोप है, कॉग्निटिवली ड्रिवन अप्रोच। दूसरा स्कोप आपका ये हो सकता है सिंपल एज दैट, आप सोच सकते नहीं मैं तो सिर्फ डिस्क्रिप्शन लूंगा क्योंकि मेरे पास तो वो सब सॉफ्टवेयर अवेलेबल है नहीं है, एफएमआरआई में जानता नहीं हूँ, एमआरआई स्कैन के बारे में मुझे पता नहीं है, और लेक्सिकल डिसीजन टास्क और भी एक होता है, उसको किस तरह से देखा जाता है, तो मुझे जानकारी है नहीं, तो मैं सिंपली डिस्क्रिप्टिव पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू को ले रहा हूँ। तो उसी हिसाब से आपका काम का जो स्कोप जो है ना इधर उधर हो जाएगा, ठीक है। और दूसरी बात यह है, लेट्स से वन मोर इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग वी टॉक अबाउट सिग्निफिकेंस। मैंने सिग्निफिकेंस के बारे में ज्यादा बोल नहीं पाया था। जैसे क्या होता है, जैसे आप काम कर रहे हो ना, ऐसा नहीं है आपका काम सिर्फ फॉर द सेक ऑफ पीएचडी यू आर डूइंग, फॉर द सेक ऑफ रिसर्च, क्योंकि आपका काम एक सिग्निफिकेंस इतना सिग्निफिकेंट है इन फ्यूचर, जैसे एक इमेंस कंट्रीब्यूशन सोसाइटी में और एकेडमिक फील्ड में दे सकता है। तो जो भी है, एक मान के चलो आपने सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलप किया है फॉर let's say Shah has developed a software for Indian learners, especially Indian learners learning Russian. तो रशियन आप लोग सब जानते हैं, जैसे रशियन में स्ट्रेस बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है और हम लोगों के लिए स्ट्रेस इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है। रशियन इज ए स्ट्रेस सेंसिटिव लैंग्वेज, यू नो दैट। रुका में कितना फर्क होता है, रुका में फर्स्ट सिलेबल में स्ट्रेस एंड सेकंड सिलेबल में स्ट्रेस में यू गेट ए डिफरेंट वर्ड। इतना सारा पॉलीसिंथेटिक स्ट्रक्चर है, पॉलीसिंथेटिक स्ट्रक्चर इन फ्यूशनल लैंग्वेज है। एक मॉर्फीम जो है ना, एक छोटे सी चीज में 3-4 मीनिंग निकाल जाता है, इतना सारा एग्रीमेंट होता है। इस इनिशियली इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर लर्नर्स लाइक अस टू अंडरस्टैंड ऑल दोस थिंग्स। तो आप उस लेवल पे मान के चलिए, बिगिनर्स के लिए कुछ करना चाहते हैं, and then so this is definitely going to have immense contribution, or definitely so something like that, उसी हिसाब से आपका स्कोप चेंज हो जाएगा। जैसे आप तो मान के चलो सेम टॉपिक है, सेम टॉपिक के हिसाब से whatever the same topic I'm talking about, आपका एम्स एंड ऑब्जेक्टिव्स का जो क्वेश्चंस है, रिसर्च क्वेश्चंस है, सेम टॉपिक को डिफरेंट तरीके से देखा जा सकता है, ठीक है। सो जैसे शॉर्ट स्टोरीज, कोई भी शॉर्ट स्टोरीज आप ले लीजिए, आप पुस्किन की बात करिए, तो उस शॉर्ट स्टोरीज को मान के चलो 6 शॉर्ट स्टोरीज और 6 नॉवेल सामने सिलेक्ट किया है। उस 6 और नॉवेल्स और शॉर्ट स्टोरीज को कितने तरीके से हम देख सकते हैं, बहुत मतलब डिपेंडिंग ऑन योर एम्स एंड ऑब्जेक्टिव्स, डिपेंडिंग ऑफ योर स्कोप ऑफ योर वर्क, उस हिसाब से देख सकते हैं। तो ये है इन जनरल चीजें जो है ना, और आप धीरे धीरे जितना ही काम करते जाएंगे, जितना पढ़ेंगे थोड़ा बहुत, उतना ही आपको पता चलेगा।
Thank you, Dr. A. Maybe I'll just quickly add, a precise definition of these aims, objective, and scope. You may take a screenshot of this slides. whosoever wanted to understand these three similar type of aspects. Like aim is basically what you want to achieve. Like when we say, what is your aim? And objective is like, how do you want to achieve? Like what procedure will you take? What procedure will you adopt to achieve your aim? And scope are the foundations, or we would say that boundaries, under which boundaries you wanted to achieve your aim. Like your aim will be in which boundaries, whether it is in a particular area, in a particular state, in a particular country, in a particular globe, in a particular galaxy, in a particular, you can go and you just define your aim, your scope. Like after, like beyond this, you should not go. That is what these, just in precise, these are the differences between aim, objective, and scope. All right. So maybe we have some other questions. Nandini, you wanted to ask something? Okay. Maybe you can just raise your hand or type your questions here. Of course, the discussion is generally this such kind of discussion should happen between the the supervisors and teachers. But here, like we are just in a general way, we are just talking about which may be connected to each and every one. So maybe Harsha Narang. Harsha, are you there? Yeah, Harsha, please. Please unmute your mic.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yeah, Harsha.
Good evening, everyone. So, sir had discussed about like bibliography and references. So, could you just explain the difference between these two? Bibliography and references.
अच्छा, ये हर्षा?
Yeah, हाँ जी. Yeah.
अच्छा, हर्षा नारंग, आपका नाम देखकर पहले तो मुझे लगा मेरे टीचर है हरीश नारंग. You see, I was like, oh, Professor Harish Narang also joined. Then I just checked the spelling and it's Harsha. Then I was like, oh, it's not Harish Narang. You must have Harish Narang जी को हो सकता है सनु जी आप जानते हैं, हमारा जो इंग्लिश लिटरेचर का जो है, प्रोफेसर नारंग. Anyway, Harsha, when I was talking about the reference and bibliography, it's a terminological difference between reference and bibliography. So bibliography is basically the Latin word, and reference it's a Roman word, basically English origin, if you go back to etymology. So bibliography mainly it's a list of readings. Whether maybe in bibliography some of the things you might not have read, those things can be included in the bibliography. But if you're saying references, that means those are the things already you have quoted in the text, in the main body, somewhere in it. So those are the references you see. So there is this tiny little differences between references and bibliography. So let's say if I'm saying that Roman Jakobson, 6 functions of language. Roman Jakobson 6 functions of language. Roman Jakobson has discussed about 6 functions of language. These are the fatigue, emphatic, and all that kind of things. And then immediately I will try to see in the references whether which book or which article you are talking about. The reference section, Harsha. Okay. So bibliography, it's a more general terms. Maybe in some books you may see bibliography, but mostly the format in JNU what we follow, we do not write bibliography, rather we write references. Okay, is this understood, Harsha?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Because bibliography is something we know when we make a dissertation and everything. So reference I was a little confused in like what is the difference. Now it's clear.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, maybe I'll just quickly again get something for you which you can take screenshot of. This as like Dr. Ray said, this bibliography generally is considered as the sources like which you have used directly or indirectly, whether you have cited them or not, they all will come in bibliography. Whereas, like as Dr. Ray said, I'll just repeat that references include the sources which you have directly quoted or cited in your work, and they are the part of your references also. And this is also like a mix match figure which I found while Dr. Ray was explaining. It may help you in your understanding these two components. Okay, yes. So any other question? Harsha, is that clear? I think, I hope.
Yeah, it's fine. Thank you, sir.
All right. So do we have any other questions?
Yeah, sir. Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes. फारूक audible है, कोई बात नहीं. 2 सवाल के लिए ज़्यादा कोई पैसे खर्च नहीं होंगे.
नहीं. सवाल नहीं पूछना सर, मतलब मैं ये कहना चाह रहा था, I wanted to say like that sir explained and you showed that you have shown that you shared your screen where it is written like about bibliography and references. One more thing that I want to add in bibliography it is the list of all those books. Either you have read it, or you want to suggest to the readers for their enhancement of knowledge, or for their more suggestions, or those books that are relevant but you have not read. It also comes under bibliography, I think. And in references,
फारूक, I would say कि ऐसी किताबों से सजेस्ट करने से पहले खुद पढ़ना बहुत जरूरी है. अगर बिना पढ़े आप किसी को सजेस्ट करेंगे, कल को वही आके आपको पीछे से कहेगा कुछ भी, मतलब मारेगा तो कुछ नहीं. बट क्योंकि जब तक आपने वो सोर्स नहीं पढ़ा है, how can you suggest others just on the basis of their titles?
But I don't know, sir. I'm quoting. I'm not saying.
हाँ, अच्छा, you are quoting. Okay, yeah, no, it's not correct actually. Maybe Dr. Hari would say.
जो फारूक कह रहा है सही कह रहा है, मतलब आप साइड इट्स सजेस्टेड रीडिंग्स इन द बिब्लियोग्राफी जनरली. तो सही कहा है फारूक जी, आपने सही कहा है. लेकिन सोनू सर जो कह रहा है बिना पढ़ के सजेस्ट भी नहीं करना चाहिए, समझ रहे हैं ना फारूक जी?
Okay, actually, sir, that I wanted to clarify, because I was listening a lecture of Dr. Jamil sir on research methodology, and he was saying the same thing. He was answering the difference between references and bibliography. That's why I wanted to clarify it.
हो सकता है, maybe we don't know, like but what we would say that maybe इसमें personal subjective thought हो. But we would say that कि आप किसी को भी जैसे अभी कोई आपको डिश कोई सजेस्ट करनी है, राइट, या आप अगर सुनी सुनाई बातों पे कहेंगे कि यार ये इसके पहाड़गंज के छोले भटूरे बहुत अच्छे हैं, और आपने खुद टेस्ट नहीं किए, कल को आपका दोस्त जाएगा और बोलेगा यार बहुत मिर्ची डालते हैं वो तो बहुत, मैं तो मिर्ची खाता ही नहीं हूँ. So in that case, like, you will be caught, and then next time you will suggest, that person will not take your advice, or that person will not adopt your suggestion. ये difference हो जाता है, क्योंकि अच्छे की definition बहुत सारी हो सकती है.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? We have many scholars over here. कोई भी सवाल हो? So we can wind up. Okay, so I think there are no questions. Tick tick one. Let's count for 3. Tick tick 1. Tick tick 2. Tick tick 3. Okay, so no questions are there. Thank you very much, Dr. Ray. I think like it's something like, we are just trying to fill the gaps. Of course, if this discussion had been in offline, then this discussion may have been more longer what we have here. But still, at least we are successful in exchanging the knowledge, and in our endeavors. We thank you for your this hard work and this interesting interaction. And of course, like, our scholars would contact you in case they have any questions, and we're thankful for you to spending the time for us.
थैंक यू सोनू जी. ऐसे बहुत कम ही मौका मिलता है, mostly what happens is that that's what I had seen in JNU and other places. हम लोग एक दूसरे को रेफर नहीं करते. जो रेफरेंसेस बिब्लियोग्राफी की बात कर रहे हैं ना हम लोग, इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट जो है ना, तो हम लोग एक दूसरे का वर्क को साइड नहीं करते हैं. कहाँ साइड करेंगे? अमेरिका में कौन काम किया है, और रशिया में डेफिनेटली रशियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट में रशियन का कोट करना चाहिए. बट ये काइंड ऑफ यूरोसेंट्रिक नोशन जो है ना डेवलप हो चुका है हम लोगों के बीच में. सो आई थैंक यू. एटलीस्ट देयर शुड बी काइंड ऑफ इंटरेक्शन between let's say colleagues, and not only between among colleagues as well across the discipline. Even students जो है ना, जैसे आपके रशियन सेंटर के स्टूडेंट्स है, हमारे लिंग्विस्टिक सेंटर के स्टूडेंट्स के साथ इंटरेक्ट करें, एंड अदर्स आल्सो लेट्स से जो आईटी फील्ड में हैं उन भी इंटरेक्ट करें. जब तक इंटरेक्शन नहीं होगा तब तक अच्छा रिसर्च उभर के नहीं आएगा. दैट इज अंडरस्टूड. सो we learn a lot. So thank you for inviting me. And just बहुत कम टाइम है. रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी कोर्स आप जानते हैं, हम लोग एक सेमेस्टर पढ़ाते हैं, एटलीस्ट 30 to 35 लेक्चर्स जो है ना उसमें देते हैं. कम टाइम में फिर भी मैंने कोशिश करा थोड़ा बहुत जो है ना मैंने बच्चे लोगों को बता देता हूँ. एटलीस्ट दे विल गेट टू नो हाउ टू राइट रिसर्च प्रपोजल और लेट्स आर्टिकल और सिनॉप्सिस भी इन फ्यूचर में लिखेंगे तो थोड़ा बहुत तो understanding hoga. So in that note, I made this very basic fundamental things, research methodology. बहुत सारी चीजें, डेटा कलेक्शन कैसे करनी है, एथिकल इश्यूज को लेके हम बात करते हैं. उसके बाद सैम्पलिंग ऑफ रिसर्च, किस तरह से सैंपल किया जाता है, टॉपिक को किस तरह से नैरो डाउन भी किया जाता है. जैसे फारूक को मैं बता रहा था, तो हो सकता है उसमें एक नाम क्लास लेते हैं मान के चलिए. So there are many things. So in case you feel all other students, I can see some of my students also join from as well as some MPhil PhD students also, they have also joined. So in case those students, Russian and others, if you would like to interact with me, my email ID is there and you can contact me. So I'm accessible. So thank you, Sanuji, once again for giving me this opportunity to interact with your students. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And maybe now I'll just discuss, I'll just request everybody, maybe we can have a big round of applause for Dr. A. Please unmute your mic, and if it is possible, let us join in our... Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. फारूक, आपको पहले एक वीडियो में फारूक को देखा था मैंने, मतलब पिछले साल मेरे ख्याल से.
फारूक is the famous personality.
हाँ, तो आज फारूक तो अच्छा लग रहा है, मुझे भी अच्छा लग रहा है.
Now we can feel कि yes, हम फारूक के साथ में मिले हैं.
हाँ.
It's pleasure. Huh? Okay.
Okay, take care, okay. Sonuji. See you soon.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, sir. Das vidaniya, sir. Thank you very much.
Das vidaniya, Farooq.